So there I was, minding my own business being dead, when all this yelling woke me up. My head was splitting like someone used it as a drum. Your daughter marrying our dead son is a blessing, some guy was screaming. Meanwhile, a woman was crying, kids were wailing. Absolute chaos. Super annoying when you're trying to be unconscious. I popped my eyes open and, surprise, I was lying in a box. A very rectangular, very wooden box. Yeah, a coffin. Cool, cool, cool. Then a tsunami of memories hit my brain. Turns out, I used to be the supreme commander of humanity's last survival base during the global apocalypse. I died in a massive bombing, and my soul apparently decided to yeet itself back in time to ancient China, landing in the body of a girl named Ruanyu, a village idiot whose family was fleeing a 3-year drought. And what's the first thing waiting for me? Grandma Dearest had sold me to marry a dead guy. A ghost wedding. I was literally gift-wrapped in a coffin like some cursed Amazon delivery. Outside, my new mom, a woman so thin the wind could snap her, was clawing at the coffin, fighting off a squad of thugs with nothing but pure maternal rage. My new dad? Useless. Just squatting there looking at Grandma for permission to have a spine. Spoiler. Permission denied. Grandma. Picture a bony old lady with cheekbones that could cut glass and eyes pointing in different directions, was screaming about how selling one useless idiot girl for 3 bags of rice was basically winning the lottery. Mother of the year, folks. Then the fat landlord, Mr. Lou, the genius who wanted me to be his dead son's coffin bride, ordered his goons to drag my mom away. They slapped her to the ground. My little twin siblings, 2 tiny stick-figure children, tumbled down with her. That's when I decided, nap time is over. I kicked that coffin lid clean off. It went flying like a frisbee. I climbed out looking like a zombie at a dinner party, and the whole place went dead silent. Pun intended. My mom screamed at me to run. But running? That's not really my style. I was a military commander who survived the actual end of the world. These guys were basically NPCs. I grabbed a rock and caved in the first thug's skull. Blood everywhere. Very dramatic. The rest of them rushed me, about 15 guys total. Adorable. I went through them like a blender through watermelon. Skulls cracked, legs snapped, grown men screaming. Within minutes, the ground looked like a yard sale of broken humans. The last 3 were literally shaking in their boots. I grabbed the final guy by the neck and twisted it like a bottle cap. Total kill count. All of them. 0 survivors. I don't do half measures. Then Grandma started screeching at me. You'll get us all killed. Why don't you just die? And she actually charged at me. This woman watched me demolish 15 armed men and thought, yeah, I can take her. I kicked her across the yard like a football. Get lost. Now it was just me and Mr. Lou. He was white as a sheet, screaming for guards he no longer had. His last 2 bodyguards rushed me with swords. I swatted them into his son's other coffin, which tipped over and dumped out the actual dead son's corpse. Mr. Lou hugged his son's purple body and screamed threats at me. You'll pay for this. Marrying you to my son was doing you a favor. Sir, your son is literally decomposing. I'm going to pass on that favor. Then this genius made his biggest mistake. He offered rewards to the crowd of starving refugees to kill me. Food, gold, whatever they wanted. Their eyes went red with hunger. Some started charging. I almost laughed. This idiot just painted a target on his own supply wagons in front of hundreds of desperate, starving people. He didn't need me to destroy him. He was speedrunning his own downfall. I kicked the first few attackers into the stratosphere. They hit the ground and stopped moving. And that, my friends, is how my new life started. Standing in a field surrounded by unconscious bodies, a screaming grandma, a useless dad, a corpse groom, and a fat man who just accidentally invited a mob to rob him. I love it here. So where were we? Ah yes, me, standing in a field of defeated goons, watching karma do its thing. I turned to Mr. Lou with my best, you're already dead. You just don't know it yet, voice. So, Mr. Lou, all your muscle is currently napping on the ground. Who exactly are you showing off for? The color drained from his face, so fast I thought he might faint. And the crowd of starving refugees? They finally did the math. Big fat rich guy. Wagons full of food.
Zero bodyguards.
You could practically hear the calculator noises in their heads. Nobody cared about little old me anymore. Why fight the girl who just turned 15 men into floor decorations when you could just rob the defenseless rich guy instead? Someone moved first. Then it was a stampede. The refugees swarmed those wagons like Black Friday shoppers at a TV sale. Mr. Liu screamed, flailed, got swallowed by the mob, and by the time the crowd cleared, well, let's just say he got trampled into a very flat, very dead pancake. Someone even stripped his clothes off the body. Efficiency. I respect it. Anyway, I got swept along with the crowd, stumbling forward with my new mom and the two tiny stick children. My stomach was eating itself. This body hadn't had real food in weeks, and I'd just used it to fight a small army. My vision went dark, and the last thing I saw was Mom catching me with her bony arms, looking terrified. Then something weird happened. I blacked out on the outside, but on the inside, I woke up in my living room. My gorgeous, Nordic minimalist, soft carpet, cream sofa, giant chandelier living room. From my previous life. My spatial dimension. A pocket universe I'd awakened during the apocalypse. Basically, imagine a luxury villa floating in a void dimension that only I can access. It's giving billionaire prepper bunker meets IKEA showroom. Back in my old world, when the apocalypse hit, I'd use my future knowledge to hoard supplies like a doomsday squirrel on caffeine. 7 years of collecting, farming, and cooking in my personal dimension. My stomach screamed at me. I lunged for the fridge, grabbed a carton of milk, and chugged it like a frat boy at a keg party. Then I inhaled 7 or 8 slices of toast bread. Then a bowl of millet porridge. I was eating so fast I barely tasted anything, but honestly, that toast was the best thing I'd ever experienced in 2 lifetimes. While munching on an apple, I took a tour to assess the damage. Bad news first. My merit points, the cosmic currency I'd spent 7 years grinding, were completely wiped. A big fat 0 floating above my head like a personal insult. 7 years of saving the world, and the universe just hit factory reset on my rewards account. I almost passed out again, this time from emotional damage. More bad news. The villa was partially locked. I could only access the first floor and the basement. The front door wouldn't open, no garden, no farmland, no fish ponds. Second floor? Sealed. And my weapons arsenal was on the second floor. Of course it was. Okay. Deep breath.
I'm Ruan Y.
I've survived the literal end of the world. I can handle a little interdimensional downgrade. Now the good news, and oh boy was there good news. The basement warehouse was still fully stocked. Let me give you the inventory because honestly it deserves its own dramatic reveal. Food. About 40 tons of rice, flour, and grains. 28 tons of vegetables. 12 tons of fruit. Over 100 boxes of drinking water plus 3 full 10-ton water tanks. The villa had running water and electricity because even my pocket dimensions have standards. Seasonings. 3 entire shelving units. Salt, soy sauce, oyster sauce, Laogan Ma chili crisp, the holy grail of condiments. Cooking wine, chicken bouillon. If it belongs in a kitchen, I had it. I hoarded seasonings like some people hoard emotional baggage. Meat. About 100 tons. Yeah, you read that right. During the apocalypse, mutant beasts ran wild, and I killed a lot of them. Turns out mutant pork, beef, and lamb actually taste amazing. Who knew the end of the world would improve the livestock? Seafood. 3 tons. Sea bass, hairy crabs, lobster. Mostly my favorites because even during the apocalypse, I had priorities. Ready-to-eat meals. 2 full shelves of pre-cooked food. Porridge, steamed buns, rice, stir-fries, meat and veggie options, plus barbecue, hot pot ingredients, grilled meats, and sashimi. I'd spent my downtime cooking like a contestant on a survival cooking show. 7 years of practice made me basically a Michelin star chef with military training. Weapons, limited 2 Desert Eagle pistols, 3 boxes of ammo, a dozen combat knives, and a compound bow with 20 arrows. Not my full arsenal, but enough to ruin someone's day. So let me get this straight. I'm stuck in ancient drought-ravaged China, surrounded by famine and chaos, and I'm sitting on a secret dimension containing a luxury apartment, 100 tons of meat, and 2 handguns. I think I'll manage. The only question was what to do about my new family. Mom, Yi Sure, had thrown herself between me and a squad of thugs. Those 2 tiny munchkins had clung to her legs, crying for their big sister. They'd fought for me when nobody else would. I'm not the original Wanyu, but I'm wearing her body, and her family just risked everything to keep me alive. So yeah, they're under my protection now. All 3 of them. Skinny Mom and the 2 little stick-figure twins. With 40 tons of grain and 100 tons of mutant beef, keeping 4 people fed during a famine should be a piece of cake. Literally. I probably have cake in there somewhere too. I opened my eyes back in the real world. Time to get to work. I woke up in Mom's arms, which was uncomfortable. Not because she was mean, the opposite actually. She was hugging me like I was made of glass, her bony arms wrapped around me so tight I could feel every rib. Hers, not mine. Well, both of ours, actually. We were all basically skeletons at this point. I pushed her off. Look, I spent my last life commanding soldiers and killing mutant beasts. I don't do cuddles. The twins started bawling the second they saw my eyes open. Full waterworks. Snot bubbles. The whole production. Mom started stroking my hair, whispering, "It's okay, sweetie. Those were bad men. You did the right thing protecting us. Don't be scared." She thought I was traumatized. Adorable. Lady, I once fought a mutant bear the size of a bus. I'm not scared.
I'm hungry.
I'm not your daughter, I said flatly. She smiled at me like I'd just said something precious. Of course you're my daughter. I know you're worried about getting us in trouble, but Mommy will face everything with you no matter what. Her face, yellow, gaunt, so thin it looked like skin stretched over a skull, was somehow radiating pure warmth and determination. This woman who looked like a strong breeze could snap her in half was ready to fight the world for me. I felt something. A little twinge in my chest. Weird. Must be the hunger. From the original Wanyu's memories, I knew this body's dad was a spineless jellyfish. The grandparents were cartoon villains, and the entire extended family had been using Mom and us kids as unpaid servants for years. All the food during this evacuation was controlled by Grandma, and our branch of the family got the least. The twins were starving so badly, they looked like stick figures with eyes. The original Wanyu had been so weak from hunger that one shove knocked her into the coffin and killed her. So here was my plan. Take Mom and the twins, cut all ties with their Wan family, and never look back. My secret dimension had enough food to feed us for years. But I wasn't sharing a single grain of rice with those parasites. Before I could even start my dramatic exit speech, their Wan family beat me to the drama. Cursed child. She's a disaster. Grandpa Erwan started screaming, pointing at me with a shaking finger. Now that the danger was over and he'd had time to recover from watching me demolish 15 men, he was feeling brave again. Funny how that works. Look at the daughter you raised, he yelled at my dad. She attacked her own grandmother and cousin. This kind of demon girl has no place in our family. Get out, Dad, my wonderful, courageous, heroic father. Looked at Grandpa with the spine of a wet noodle. Father, please don't. Are you defending her? Grandpa cut him off.
Fine.
Then you can get out too. I don't need an ungrateful son. Father, please don't abandon me. Dad literally threw himself at Grandpa's legs, clinging like a toddler at daycare drop-off. Then, and this is the best part, he turned around and scolded me. What are you standing there for? Apologize to your grandparents. Now, this man. His daughter was almost buried alive in a coffin to marry a corpse. His wife got beaten bloody trying to save her, and his solution is, just say sorry to the people who sold you. Father of the year, everyone. Standing ovation.
But Mom?
Mom had finally had enough. She has nothing to apologize for. She stepped in front of me like a shield. Skinny, starving, barely standing, but absolutely done taking garbage from these people. Grandpa nearly had a stroke. Insolence. Divorce this woman immediately, or you're out too. Dad started crying harder. Father, N.O. Wanyang, just kneel and explain, please. Mom looked at her husband. This man she'd made excuses for all these years, calling him honest and simple, while he let his family treat her and her kids like dirt. The kids got beaten by their cousins regularly. They starved while the other branches ate. And now they'd sold her daughter, without even asking. Something in her eyes just turned off. I won't kneel. I have nothing to apologize for. They've never treated us like family anyway, so what if we leave? I am done, mother of
the year.
I wanted to slow clap. Grandpa went nuclear. Divorce her or get out. Dad, still clinging to Grandpa's leg like a barnacle. Father P. Then Uncle number 2 decided to pour gasoline on the fire. Brother, why are you even hesitating? A bastard child of unknown origin, 2 sickly runts, and a disobedient woman. How can they compare to your own parents? He called me a bastard. A wild seed. Apparently, the original Wanyu wasn't even biologically theirs. She was found as a baby in the mountains and adopted. Uncle 2 had been sitting on this tea, and finally decided to spill it. She's a wild child. Everyone knows you picked her up from nowhere. We fed this ungrateful wretch for years, and this is how she repays us? We don't want this cursed creature, Mom exploded. She is my daughter, but the real hero? Little Long Sheng, my tiny, stick figure, 4-year-old brother, charged at Uncle 2 like a furious baby bull and bit his hand. This kid weighs maybe 30 pounds soaking wet, and he just went full piranha on a grown man's hand. I have never been prouder of a human being in either of my lives. Uncle 2 howled, then, because he's a fully grown adult with the emotional maturity of a cockroach, slapped a toddler across the face. He hit my brother. My tiny, starving, brave little brother, who just defended me. Then he raised his foot to kick him. Everything happened too fast for me to run over. So, I did what any reasonable person would do. I picked up a rock and threw it at his face. Some people never learn. But that's okay. I'm an excellent teacher. Uncle 2 went down holding his nose, blood gushing everywhere like a broken ketchup bottle. I yanked little Longshim behind me and checked his face, swollen up like a steamed bun, blood on his lip. This tiny kid who weighed nothing, slapped full force by a grown man. Something cold and sharp clicked on inside me. Uncle 2 came charging at me, face covered in his own nosebleed, screaming about how dare I hit him. Bold move, sir. Very bold. I kicked him square in the crotch. Full power.
No hesitation.
Maximum damage. The scream that came out of that man was not a sound any human should be able to make. Uncle 3, standing nearby, instinctively crossed his legs. I saw it. Everyone saw it. Then Grandpa came flying at me, shrieking about how I was a cursed demon child who deserved to die. So I grabbed him by the hair and introduced his face to the nearest rock. Bonk. Blood everywhere. Grandpa went limp like a switched-off robot. Uncle 2 was still on the ground doing a very convincing impression of a dying fish. Murder. Help, the family started screaming. And then, oh, this is the good part. My spineless noodle of a father finally found his voice. Not to defend me. Not to comfort his kids.
No.
He puffed up his chest and said, Stop. How dare you hit your grandfather? If you don't stop right now, I don't have a daughter like you, this man. I cannot stress enough how useless this man is. His daughter was stuffed in a coffin to marry a corpse. His wife got beaten bloody. His son just got slapped across the face by a grown adult. And the only time he finds his backbone is to scold the one person who actually fought back. Little Long Sheng, bless his swollen, bruised, fearless little face, planted himself in front of me like a tiny bodyguard. It's not sister's fault. Grandpa tried to hit her first. It's Grandpa's fault. Dad started lecturing. He's your grandfather. Even if he hits you, it's your fault for making him angry. Every kid gets beaten sometimes. I wanted to laugh. I really did. But Mom beat me to the response. She stormed over, stood in front of us like a wall, and unloaded. So it's fine when they beat our children, but wrong when we fight back? You're their father. Look at Long Sheng's face. Look at the wound on yours head. Have you said one word of comfort since this started? One. She was shaking, tears in her eyes. but her voice was steel. I used to think you were just weak. Now I see you're just heartless. Dad stood there with his mouth open like a broken mailbox. Then Mom dropped the bomb. I want a divorce. Dead. Silence. Dad looked like someone had hit him with a truck. He couldn't even process the words. His whole operating system crashed and rebooted. Uncle 3 started jumping around like a gremlin. Divorce? You don't deserve a divorce. Brother, just kick her out. All this commotion finally attracted the village chief and the elders. They showed up, surveyed the carnage, bloody grandpa, crotch-kicked uncle, crying children, screaming adults, and just sighed. They knew their one family was a dumpster fire. Everyone in the village knew. Grandma and Grandpa openly favored the second and third branches, while treating our branch like slaves. People felt bad for us, but nobody wanted to get involved in someone else's family drama. Now that Mom was finally standing up, the village chief was quietly rooting for her. "You sure?" the chief said carefully. "Are you sure about this? Times are hard. A woman alone with 3 children. Think about it carefully." Mom took a deep breath. "Village chief, I've thought it through. They sold my daughter once. They'll do it again. Even if we starve to death, we will not stay and let them destroy us." The chief nodded.
He got it.
Uncle 3 tried to cause more trouble, but the chief shut him down fast. "Make one more scene and your family gets kicked out of the village." Uncle 3 deflated like a punctured balloon. Dad tried to say something, but Uncle 3 dragged him away. Honestly, I don't think Dad even understood what was happening. His brain was still buffering. So, under the witness of the village chief and elders, they signed the divorce papers. Mom got back our identity documents, not worth much in this chaotic world, but still proof we existed as people. The chief also made their one family give us some supplies, a handful of wild vegetable buns, 4 flatbreads made of black flour, some broken pots and bowls, and 2 leaky water pouches. The wives of Uncle 2 and Uncle 3 acted like they were being robbed at gunpoint, rolling on the ground and wailing about the waste, over some buns and cracked dishes. These people, I swear. Then I did something the original one you would never have thought of. I grabbed Grandpa, who is now terrified of me, and made him sign a formal document cutting all family ties. Complete separation. No takebacks. He was so scared his hand was shaking while he signed.
Done.
We were free. Mom and us 3 kids were officially nobody's punching bags anymore. But Uncle 3, that sneaky little rat, had one last trick. He waited until the village crowd was still gathered, then pointed at me and started screaming. "Wait, who are you? You're not one you. The real one you was an idiot. She could never think of signing a separation document. You're a demon, an evil spirit. Everyone look. She's been possessed." The temperature dropped 10 degrees. Everyone stared at me like I'd just sprouted horns. In this era, people were terrified of ghosts and demons. Uncle 3 knew exactly what he was doing. It didn't matter if people believed him or not. Just the suspicion was enough. Nobody would want to travel near us. We'd either get burned as demons or kicked out of the group entirely. The man was trying to make sure that even after we left the family, we'd have nowhere to go. Cut us off from the village, leave a mother and 3 kids alone in a famine-stricken war zone. I had to hand it to Uncle 3. Grandpa was just loud and stupid, but this guy was genuinely, creatively evil. Impressive. Wrong target, though. So Uncle 3, riding high on his hole, "she's a demon" stunt, decided to push his luck even further. He ran over and snatched all the food right out of Mom's hands. Every last bun and flatbread the village chief had given us. Then, because stealing from a starving woman and her children apparently wasn't enough, he shoved Mom to the ground. Her face scraped against a sharp rock and split open, blood running down her cheek. The twins froze. 2 tiny statues with enormous, terrified eyes. I wanted to destroy him. Every cell in my body was screaming, "End him." But this stupid, malnourished noodle of a body chose that exact moment to almost black out on me. My vision went dark, my legs wobbled, and by the time I could see straight again, Uncle 3 was already sprinting back toward their Wan family's camp like the cockroach he was. If he made it back into the crowd of villagers, getting our stuff back would mean fighting the whole village. And as much as I enjoy a good brawl, I couldn't guarantee Mom and the twins would be safe in that chaos. I was about 2 seconds from swallowing this loss when, plot twist, someone stepped up. "Hey buddy, picking on a woman and her kids?" Not a great look. A scruffy guy in rags blocked Uncle Three's path. One eye missing, clothes falling apart, but standing there like he owned the road. Behind him were 4 or 5 other ragged guys, all looking equally rough. This was Giada, a refugee who'd been trailing behind our village's group. He and his crew were in bad shape. Injuries, disabilities, barely surviving. But apparently, the original Guan Yu had once pointed out some medicinal herbs to them while foraging, and they remembered. One tiny act of kindness, and this man put himself between a bully and a stranger. Humanity, occasionally not terrible. Uncle Three, of course, responded with maximum class. "Who do you think you are, you one-eyed freak? Get out of my way before I beat you too." Giada kept his cool. "Leave them alone. Don't push people to the edge." Uncle Three's response? He spat on the ground, then, because his brain was apparently a factory of terrible ideas, started screaming to the crowd that Mom must be sleeping with these guys. So that's why you left our family. You found yourself some crippled boyfriends. My brother's wife, cheating with a pack of invalids. Everyone come look." He didn't finish the sentence. Because I'd recovered just enough to sprint over and drop-kick him onto his back. I grabbed him by the collar, pulled him up, and drove my knee into his face.
POP.
A tooth went flying. Actual airtime on that tooth. Impressive trajectory.
Crunch.
There goes his nose. Completely restructured. Free rhinoplasty. Courtesy of me. I didn't get creative. I didn't switch it up. I just kept kneeing him in the face. Same spot. Over and over. Like I was trying to unlock an achievement. The villagers watched in frozen horror. Giada and his crew stood there looking at each other like, should we help? Then collectively decided nah, I had it covered. Uncle Three, through a mouthful of blood and broken teeth, gurgled. "You're not Guan Yu."
"Who
are you?" I looked him dead in his one remaining functional eye. "I'm your daddy." Then I punched him in the temple. He hit the ground face first, twitched once, and went still.
Chefeskis.
Beautiful. The crowd evaporated. People scattered like startled pigeons. Nobody wanted to be within a 50-foot radius of me.
Giada cautiosely approached.
"Miss Ruan, are you okay?" I collapsed. Face first into the dirt. Very dignified. Very commander-like. 2 blackouts in one day. My previous body could fight for 72 hours straight. This one couldn't handle 10 minutes of light violence without shutting down like an overheated laptop. Clearly, step 1 of my new life plan was eat. A lot. I woke up to darkness and freezing cold wind cutting through my paper-thin rags. The glamorous life of ancient China, everybody. A tiny head appeared 2 inches from my face. Long Sheng, grinning despite his still swollen cheek. "Sis, you're awake." Then, at maximum toddler volume. "Mom." "Sis is awake." Mom rushed over with a bowl of warm water. Little N, the other twin, was bouncing beside her. Mommy put sugar in it. "Drink, drink." "Where'd you get sugar?" My voice sounded like gravel in a blender. "The village chief gave it to us." "You need your strength." Mom's face was soft and gentle despite the fresh cut across her cheek. I took the bowl and drank. Then a tiny warm body attached itself to my arm like a koala. And then looked up at me with enormous eyes. "Does Sissy still hurt?" "And then we'll blow on it and make it better." Something in my chest did that weird twinge again.
"Must be
dehydration."
"Yeah.
Definitely dehydration." "Doesn't hurt," I said. "The porridge is almost ready," Mom said, stirring a small pot while quietly wiping tears. After I'd passed out, she'd traded 3 of our precious wild vegetable buns to get a doctor from the refugee group to look at me. Diagnosis: extreme starvation. Groundbreaking medical insight there, Doc. Thanks to Uncle Three's "she's a demon" performance, the village was keeping its distance. Nobody actually believed it, but nobody wanted to risk it either. So Mom had quietly moved us to the outer edge of the group, a tiny, forgotten corner where nobody would bother us. Just a bleeding, exhausted mother 2. Toddlers who weighed less than my old combat boots, and me, a post-apocalyptic military commander trapped in a starving teenager's body that couldn't go 5 minutes without fainting. We were alone, broke, freezing, and almost out of food. Good thing I had a secret luxury apartment full of mutant beef in my brain. Time to start fixing things. Mom was crying again. Full waterfall mode. It's all my fault. I'm so useless. I can't protect you kids. Tears streaming down her face, lip trembling. The whole tragic heroine performance. Meanwhile, I was sitting there curling my toes inside my shoes from sheer discomfort. I have commanded armies. I have killed mutant monsters. I do not know what to do with a crying mother. I'm hungry, I blurted out. Only thing I could think of to make her stop. It worked instantly. Mom went from sobbing mess to action mode in 0 seconds flat.
Right. Food.
Mommy's getting you porridge right now. While she was gone, I looked around. We were camped in an open field, far from the main group. In the distance, the refugee convoy stretched out with hundreds of little campfires. Everyone was cooking, but there was almost no smell of actual food. 2 months of fleeing had drained every last grain of rice. People were eating wild vegetable mush, bark, whatever they could find. Mom came back with a bowl of porridge. I used that word very loosely. It was basically a wild vegetable bun dissolved in water. I took a sip and nearly projectile vomited it across the campsite. Bitter, gritty, and it scraped my throat going down like swallowing gravel, mixed with sadness. Meanwhile, the twins were slurping theirs like it was 5-star ramen. These kids had been eating grass and tree bark for months. To them, this swamp water was a treat. I forced the rest down and stood up. I need to use the bathroom. I'll come with you, and oh, alone. I'll be quick. I walked into the nearby woods, and I used the word woods generously. Every tree was dead and stripped bare, leaves eaten by starving refugees, branches snapped off for firewood. The ground was cracked like a jigsaw puzzle. 3 years of drought had turned this place into a wasteland. No rain, no crops, no hope. The whole country was falling apart, barbarians raiding from the north, sandstorms everywhere, and winter coming on fast. Once I was out of sight, I reached into my spatial dimension and pulled out a big pack of sliced bread, 4 cartons of milk, and 2 bottles of water. I stripped off the modern packaging because nothing says suspicious like a starving refugee girl carrying factory-sealed groceries, wrapped everything in my outer coat, and headed back. Now, here's the thing. Mom isn't stupid. She was going to notice that her formerly brain-damaged daughter was suddenly articulate, strategic, and producing food from thin air. I couldn't sneak around forever, so I did what any reasonable interdimensional time traveler would do. I made up the most ridiculous cover story imaginable. I handed Mom the bundle. She opened it, saw actual food, soft bread, milk, clean water, and slammed it shut so fast you'd think it was full of snakes. Her eyes darted left and right, checking if anyone had seen, before she whispered, Where did you get this? I conjured it. What? Deep breath. Here we go. One use big lie, take 1. So, all those years when I was, simple? My soul was actually somewhere else. A magical place with mountains, rivers, and tons of food. There was an immortal sage living there, and he took me in as his student. He taught me mystical arts for years. Then, today he told me, if I didn't go back to my body, I'd die. Before I left, he gave me a bunch of food as a parting gift. When I woke up, I was already in the coffin. Everything was so chaotic I couldn't check if the dream was real, so I just went to test it, and yeah, it's real. I delivered this entire speech with a completely straight face. Academy Award performance. 0 blinking. Mom's jaw was on the floor. So you're saying, all those years you were simple-minded. It's because your soul was studying with an immortal. The twins had a completely different takeaway. Their eyes went the size of dinner plates. Big sis. You know magic? For real? Naturally, I said, and held out my open palm. A bag of white rabbit milk candies materialized out of thin air. Then I made it vanish. Then reappear. The twins' faces went through about 17 emotions in 3 seconds, landing firmly on, my sister is the coolest person who has ever existed in any universe, "Sis, you're amazing. Are you a fairy?" "Not a fairy. Just picked up a few tricks." I unwrapped 2 candies and popped one into each tiny mouth. "From now on, you don't have to be scared of bad guys. And you won't go hungry anymore. Because Big Sis can make yummy food appear whenever she wants." The candy hit their taste buds and both twins went absolutely still. These kids, who had been eating dirt and bark, were tasting milk candy for the first time. Their eyes glazed over. They entered a state of pure bliss. I'm pretty sure Long Sheng briefly left his body. Then, and this is the part that got me, Long Sheng carefully pulled the half-sucked, saliva-coated candy out of his mouth and tried to shove it into mine. "Sis, you have some too." I looked at his grubby little fingers. The glistening candy covered in toddler drool. "You keep it. I have my own." I unwrapped a fresh one and popped it in my mouth. Then I put one in Mom's mouth too, because she was still standing there buffering like a frozen computer. The sweetness seemed to reboot her brain. She snapped back to reality and grabbed my hands, tears flowing again, but happy tears this time. "My baby girl, you met an immortal. You learned real skills. I always knew you weren't really simple." Then her face went dead serious. More serious than I'd ever seen her. "Listen to me carefully. You must never tell anyone else about this. Not the magic, not the food, not any of it. Not a single person. Not a single hint. Ever. Do you understand?" I looked at her. This starving, battered, bleeding woman who had just been handed a miracle, and her very first instinct wasn't greed, wasn't, "Give me more," wasn't, "What else can you do?" It was protect my daughter's secret. No scheming. No calculating how to use this. Just pure, raw, mama bear protectiveness. Something warm spread through my chest. That stupid twinge again. I squeezed her hand. "I know. Don't worry." So there it is. My cover story. A wizard taught me magic in my dreams for 15 years. Absolutely bonkers. Completely unbelievable by any modern standard. These people bought it in 30 seconds flat. I love ancient China. Mom drilled the twins on secrecy, like a tiny spy handler. If anyone finds out about your sister's abilities, bad people will come for her. Understand? Long Sheng puffed up his chest like a 4-year-old secret agent. Long Sheng understands. "I will never tell anyone," and then launched herself into my arms and clamped onto my neck like a baby octopus. "And it won't tell either. Don't want bad people taking Sissy." These kids had been bullied and starved their whole lives. They weren't naive little toddlers. They were tiny survival experts who already understood that the world was terrible and secrets kept you alive. Heartbreaking, but also incredibly useful right now. Anin shook her little fist in the air. "Punch the bad guys." I almost smiled. Almost. Commanders don't smile. It's a rule. I might have smiled a little. Anyway, first mission objective. Fatten up these stick children. I heated some milk in our battered pot, stuck straws in the cartons, and handed them over. The twins stared at the boxes like I'd handed them alien technology. Then Long Sheng took a sip, and his whole face lit up like a sunrise. And didn't even comment, just buried her face in the straw and started inhaling milk, her cheeks puffing in and out like a baby blowfish. Cutest thing I've seen in 2 lifetimes. I made Mom drink some too, after the usual polite battle. In this family, nobody eats until they've spent 5 minutes insisting the other person eat first. It's exhausting. Then I brought out the coconut toast. I couldn't risk anything hot or smelly. We were camped near hundreds of starving refugees, and the scent of real cooking would attract a mob faster than Mr. Lu's wagons did. Plain bread was perfect, delicious but sneaky. Mom took one bite, and her eyes went huge. "What I asked this? Toast. It's a type of bread. This is what immortals eat. It's incredible." The twins turned into little squirrels, heads down, cheeks stuffed, chewing at maximum speed. And ate so fast she choked and started coughing. I had to pat her back and remind everyone that the food wasn't going to run away. They demolished the entire pack in minutes. Mom looked embarrassed about it. I told her they couldn't eat too much anyway. Their stomachs had shrunk from months of starvation. When I pulled out water bottles, the twins gasped at the clear plastic like it was made of diamonds. Mom held the bottle up to the firelight, genuinely amazed. The immortal's water is completely transparent. Not a single grain of dirt. She was so awed she didn't want to drink it. I had to convince her I had plenty more. Longsheng took careful tiny sips, savoring every drop, and said wistfully, "The immortal's home must be so wonderful. Clean water and yummy food." My heart did that annoying twinge thing again. Stick with me, kid. No more empty stomachs. Ever. The twins passed out almost immediately after eating. First real food in ages knocked them right out. I tucked them into our sad little grass pile, dabbed medicine on Longsheng's swollen face and Mom's cut cheek, and waited for everyone to fall asleep. Then I went to visit Jiada's crew, the one-eyed guy and his buddies who'd stood up for us earlier. I tossed them a wrapped bundle. "Thank you gift," and walked away. I'm not big on emotional speeches. I heard them open it behind me, then dead silence. Then a strangled whisper, "Are those steamed buns?" Someone slapped a hand over the guy's mouth. They huddled together like a pack of jewel thieves examining stolen diamonds, then snuck off somewhere hidden to eat. Turns out they'd been completely out of food for days. 10 grown men sharing whatever scraps of wild plants they could scrounge. They were barely standing. From what I could hear, a few of them started crying while eating. Grown men, weeping into steamed buns because they'd forgotten what real food tasted like. Giada yelled at them to man up, kicked his crying brother aside, then quietly gave his own bun to a sick kid in their group who was barely breathing. Walked away before anyone could argue. Tough guy with a soft center. I liked him. Useful people are worth feeding. So the sick kid in Jiada's group, ergo Z, had taken a knife to the gut from bandits 2 weeks ago. No medicine, no doctor, just a dirty rag wrapped around the wound. The kid was slowly dying and he knew it. He kept telling everyone to stop wasting food on him, which only made the guys feed him more aggressively. Meanwhile, I had settled into a routine. Every morning, milk and sweet rice porridge for the family, plus veggie buns. No cooking, no strong smells, nothing that screamed, "Hey, starving refugees, this girl has real food over here." The twins licked their bowls clean every single time. Like literally licked them. I could have used those bowls as mirrors. 7 days of marching south. More refugees joined the convoy every day, turning our group into a massive river of desperate humanity. My body was slowly recovering. At least I could go a whole day without face-planting into the dirt, which felt like progress. Jiada's crew had quietly positioned themselves around us like bodyguards, making it look like we were all one group. Smart. Nobody bothered us. The Wan family shot dirty looks from a distance, but didn't dare come close. They were scheming to get their food rations back, obviously, but scheming was all they could do because, well, they'd seen what happened to people who annoyed me. Those rations, by the way, the gross bark and weed flatbreads, I gave them all to Jia Da's crew. My family was eating toast and steamed buns from my pocket dimension. We didn't need throat-shredding survival crackers. I'd been steadily feeding Jiada's guys for a week now, call it an investment. They were looking healthier already. These men were rough around the edges, missing eyes, missing fingers, limping on bad legs. They looked like a support group for people who'd lost fights. But their eyes were sharp and dangerous. These guys had seen real violence. Done real violence. Useful. One evening, I found Jiada and got straight to it. "I want to make a deal." He raised an eyebrow. Didn't seem surprised. Smart man. He'd probably been wondering when I'd cash in my steam bun favors. "I need manpower for a job. You guys fit the bill. Consider the food I've already given you as the down payment. Going forward, 2 steamed buns per person per day. You work for me, do what I say. Deal?" Jair, his younger brother, practically levitated. 2 buns a day? Big brother, say yes. White flour buns. Jiada glared at him. Jair was already drooling, mentally swimming through a sea of imaginary bread. "What exactly would you need us to do?" Jiada asked carefully. "Rob people." Silence. Several faces went pale. Jiada drew himself up with great dignity. "Mr. Wan, though times are hard and morals have crumbled, there are lines a man does not cross. My brothers and I walk the righteous path. We would never stoop to banditry, and you're literally about to die of starvation. I cut in. Your principal's going to attend your funeral?" Besides, who said anything about robbing the poor? I'm talking about fat landlords with private armies who buy girls for ghost marriages and steal from starving families. Robbing them isn't crime. It's community service. Jia Da's righteous speech deflated like a popped balloon. He looked at his brothers, bones poking through skin, barely standing. He thought about Gozi, bleeding out on the ground with no medicine.
Fine.
I'm in, and just like that, I had myself a robbery crew. Look, I know what you're thinking. Ruan, you're organizing armed robbery, and to that I say, I'm organizing targeted redistribution of hoarded wealth from oppressive rural elites to starving displaced civilians.
See?
When you use enough words, anything sounds noble. 2 buns a day per man. 10 guys. That's 20 buns daily for a private mercenary squad willing to do whatever I say. Back in my old world, a military unit cost millions. Here?
Bread.
I love this economy. Jada had one condition before we shook hands on this whole robbery venture. We don't steal from innocent women and children. Deal. Honestly, I respected it. A man with principles he'll actually stick to is worth 10 men, without any. Plus, I was never planning to rob regular people anyway. Ordinary refugees had nothing worth taking, and stealing their last scraps of food would make me no better than their one family. Hard pass. My targets were always going to be the fat cats, the wealthy scumbags hoarding resources while everyone else starved. Think of me as Robin Hood, except scarier and with better hair. Here's the thing though, my secret food stash was huge, but it wasn't infinite. And I couldn't exactly keep pulling modern groceries out of thin air without raising questions. Oh, this perfectly packaged bread? It just grew on a tree. A magic tree. Stop asking. I'd been thinking bigger picture. Southern China had less drought, sure, but it also had bandits, invading barbarians, and general chaos heading its way. Nowhere was safe long-term. If I wanted to keep Mom and the twins alive, I needed more than snacks. I needed an actual army. Stockpile grain, build a fortress, create a fighting force. The full warlord starter pack. But first, baby steps. Tonight we rob. I tossed Jada 20 buns and 5 bottles of water as advance payment. His guys gathered around the water bottles like cavemen discovering fire. What I asked this? It's see-through. Is this foreign glass? It's so light. Way better than a water pouch. One guy spent 5 minutes figuring out the cap, took a sip, and nearly ascended to heaven. It's delicious. No dirt taste at all. It's even a little sweet. They pass the bottles around like sacred relics. Meanwhile, I told them to eat up and meet me at the Western Woods at 11 p.m. sharp. Tonight was going to be physical. When the time came, 8 of Jia Da's guys showed up. Gozi stayed behind with one caretaker, still dying slowly from a stab wound. So 9 of us total, including me. I led them through dead forest for about 30 minutes until we reached a valley. Below us, 20-something men camped around fires. See them? That's our target tonight. Jia squinted. Then his eyes went wide as dinner plates, and he slapped both hands over his mouth. Horse bandits. Yeah. Horse bandits. The violent, murderous, raid your village and burn it down kind. Miss Wan, are you insane? There's 20 of them. We have 9 people. Half of us are missing body parts. I stayed calm. We lure them out. Pick them off one by one. Jada frowned. How did you even know they were here? They've been watching our convoy for 2 days. Scouts tailing us since the night before last. They're planning to attack. They're just waiting for reinforcements. Their second-in-command arrives tomorrow. After that, they hit us with full force. Dead silence. Every face went white. If we do nothing, I continued, tomorrow they combine forces and raid the entire refugee group. Most people won't survive. So we can either sit around waiting to be slaughtered, or we take them out tonight while they're split up and not expecting it. Nobody argued with that math. Just then, 2 bandits wandered toward our hiding spot. Everyone froze. The bandits stopped about 20 feet away and started unbuckling their pants. Jada's crew suddenly remembered I was a teenage girl and got extremely uncomfortable. I did not care even slightly. I've seen worse things than 2 guys peeing in a bush. I once watched a mutant cockroach the size of a car eat a building. While they did their business, they chatted. Very helpful of them. When's the second boss getting here? I'm freezing my butt off. Tomorrow. Once he arrives, we hit those refugees immediately. There's some big fish in that group, enough loot to keep us comfortable for months. Jada and I exchanged a look. Everything I'd told them. Confirmed. These bandits were coming for us, and tomorrow the odds would get much worse.
Y señalé Jada.
He nodded. We moved. He circled behind. I drew my knife. We struck at the exact same moment. I slit one guy's throat in a single clean motion. Jada snapped the other's neck like a breadstick. Both bandits dropped without making a sound. We each caught a body before it hit the ground. Then we looked at each other, both mildly surprised. I hadn't expected the skinny one-eyed guy to move that fast and clean. That wasn't amateur work, that was trained military precision. And Jada? He was staring at me like he'd just watched a kitten pull out a switchblade. A teenage girl who killed without hesitation, radiating the kind of cold lethality that made a veteran soldier's skin crawl. We held eye contact for a second, two killers recognizing each other. Then I wiped my blade and pointed toward the remaining bandits. 18 more to go. Better keep moving. The plan was simple. Lure them out in small groups, pick them off like snacks at a buffet. Classic divide and conquer. I literally wrote the military handbook on this stuff. Well, in my previous life. Different handbook. Different apocalypse. First two bandits were already dead in the bushes. Ja'er's crew dragged the bodies into the trees and stripped them of anything useful. Then we waited. Right on schedule, 3 more bandits came strolling over, calling their buddies names, laughing and joking like they were heading to a party. They did not notice the extra people in the trees above them. Ja'er's guys dropped down like silent spiders and strangled all 3 with ropes simultaneously. Beautiful teamwork. 0 noise. 3 more weapons acquired. I was genuinely impressed. These guys moved like they'd done this before. Interesting. But the third batch got messy. 7 or 8 bandits came at once, and they'd heard something. Too many to take quietly. Time for plan B. Mia's bait. I stepped out of the shadows and did my best, helpless lost girl impression. Wide eyes, scared face, the whole act. Huh? Where'd this chick come from? I turned and ran. They chased, laughing. Come back, little lady. Come keep us company. These idiots were so busy thinking about fun, they didn't notice I was leading them straight into an ambush. 2 guys got yanked into the shadows before anyone blinked. Who's there? Show yourselves. Thud. Another 1 down. 8 became 6 in seconds. Jada's crew burst from the shadows and engaged. This is where things got tricky. These bandits weren't pushovers like Mr. Liu's hired goons. They were strong, experienced fighters who killed people professionally. Jada's guys were brave, but half-starved and held together with determination and missing fingers. One bandit opened his mouth to scream for backup. An arrow punched through his chest before the sound came out. Then another arrow. Another body dropped. I stepped out of the darkness holding my compound bow, beautiful military-grade hardware for my apocalypse days, and fired 3 arrows at once. 2 more bandits hit the ground. Finish them. More are coming. I could hear the rest of the camp mobilizing. I scrambled up a tree and started sniping.
Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh.
Even in pitch darkness, my enhanced senses let me see everything crystal clear. 3, 4 bandits dropped at range before they even knew where the arrows were coming from. Get down. They've got a shooter. Smart bandits. They hit the dirt and started crawling. But 3 or 4 still charged through. I put my bow away, pulled out my combat knife, and went to meet them personally. Look, this body was malnourished and running at maybe 10% of my full strength. But 10% of a post-apocalyptic super soldier is still way more than enough for some medieval horse bandits. Every strike was 1 kill. Clean, fast, efficient. 2 dropped. Then Jada's crew arrived to mop up the rest. And then, silence. All 20-something bandits. Dead. I was breathing hard. If I hadn't had the compound bow, I honestly wouldn't have risked this fight. This noodle body could barely handle the exertion. But we pulled it off. Ja'er ran up to me, with stars in his eyes. Mr. Wan, You are incredible. Ja-air, officially worship the ground you walk on. Yeah, watching me carve through 8 bandits like a hot knife through tofu probably left an impression. I noticed Jada and his guys were all bleeding from various cuts. I casually tossed them wound medicine pulled from inside my coat. Actually my pocket dimension, but who's checking? Put this on your injuries later. Jair caught it and almost short-circuited. You have medicine? Can it work on other wounds too? He was thinking about Ergozi, the dying kid back at camp. I knew. It'll help, but it's not enough for him. Give him these, 1 pill twice a day. I handed over anti-inflammatory tablets. The kid's real problem was wound infection causing a raging fever. Modern antibiotics would handle that nicely. Jair literally tried to kneel. Full-on kowtow. I caught him before his knees hit the ground. It's just part of the payment. Don't make it weird. Jada looked at me with something close to devotion. In this world, medicine was worth more than gold. I just handed it over like it was nothing. He couldn't repay me, so he did what any grateful soldier does. He volunteered for cleanup duty. Now for the loot. And oh boy was there loot. The skinny guy from Jada's crew did a full inventory and reported like a proper quartermaster. 13 horses. 5 bags of grain, 3 millet, 2 sweet potato. 2 water barrels. 3 bags of horse feed. 23 swords. And, drumroll, 2 chests of jewelry and treasure. Jair's grin could have lit up the entire valley. These bandits were loaded. Total cash found on the bodies, 33 taels and 5 coins of silver. I took 20, gave them the rest. Jada tried to refuse, insisting I deserved it all.
Take it.
Stick with me, and you won't lose out. His eyes lit up. He laughed, a real, full laugh. All right then, Miss Ruan. We're with you. So let me recap my first night of business operations. 20-plus bandits eliminated, 13 horses acquired. Enough grain to feed everyone for weeks, a small armory of swords, 2 treasure chests, and a crew of hardened fighters who now looked at me like I was part war goddess, part walking food bank. Not bad for a skinny teenager who fainted twice yesterday. I waved my hand like a general. Pack it all up. We're heading back. Yes, ma'am. They scrambled like excited puppies, grabbing horses and loading carts. Walking back through the moonlit forest with 13 horses, a cart full of treasure, and a squad of loyal soldiers, I allowed myself a small moment of satisfaction. Day 1 of my warlord career. Off to a fantastic start. We got back to camp around 3 a.m. I told Jada to hide the horses and loot, then gave everyone 15 minutes to pack. We were leaving. Tonight.
Right now.
You want to ditch the convoy and travel alone? Jada connected the dots fast. Those 2 dead bandits had mentioned reinforcements arriving tomorrow.
Exactly.
Problem 1. We suddenly had 13 horses and a cart full of treasure. Walking back into a camp of starving refugees with that was basically screaming, ROBUS please. Problem 2. The bandit second-in-command was bringing more men tomorrow. When they found their buddies all dead, there'd be a bloodbath, and I didn't plan on being anywhere nearby when it happened.
Agreed.
Too dangerous to stay, Jada said, and his guys scattered to pack up. I woke Mom and the twins. We need to go.
Now.
Bandits are targeting this group. Mom's face went white at the word bandits. But when I told her I'd gotten us horses so we wouldn't have to walk anymore, she just blinked at me in confusion. Where did you get horses? Found them. Found them. I didn't elaborate. I scooped up both sleeping twins, 1 per arm, and told Mom to grab our stuff. We owned approximately nothing, so this took about 30 seconds. When Mom saw 13 actual horses waiting in the woods, her eyes nearly fell out of her head. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I could see her brain trying to process how her daughter found over a dozen horses in the middle of the night. Meanwhile, Jada had traded some grain for 2 covered wagons. Smart guy, Mom and the kids could ride in comfort instead of bouncing on horseback. The twins didn't even wake up during the transfer. They slept through the entire escape operation like 2 tiny logs. Unbelievable. Before we left, Mom hesitated. I knew what she was thinking. I left a note for the village chief warning him about the bandits. If he believes me, they'll be fine. Mom relaxed.
He's a good man.
We owe him for helping us get our papers. Fair. The chief had earned a warning. Everyone else? Not my problem. I'd already killed 20+ bandits for them tonight. That's my good deed quota for the year. Aren't you worried about their one family? I asked, testing the waters. Mom's expression went cold. Actually cold. This soft, gentle, perpetually crying woman looked at me with eyes like ice. They treated us like animals for years. I remember every single thing they did. We can barely keep ourselves alive. Worrying about them is a luxury we can't afford. What about Dad? A tiny flicker of something crossed her face. Then it hardened right back up. His parents always came first. Even if I told him about the bandits, he wouldn't believe me. The moment I got that divorce paper, we became strangers. He watched his family torture us and never said a word. He chose them. So, I choose US. She took a breath. From now on, it's just us four. Together. Internally, I was doing a victory dance. I'd been worried she'd go soft and want to save their one family out of some misplaced mercy. But no, Mom had grown a spine of titanium, and she was not going back. We rode through the night and reached in Liu County by mid-morning the next day. Horses and wagons made the journey almost pleasant, the first comfortable travel any of us had experienced in months. But we had a problem. Rolling up to a city gate with a dozen horses, loaded carts, and bags of grain was basically painting a target on our foreheads. So I split us into two groups. Giada left 2 guys outside the city to guard the extra horses and supplies, including Ergozi, who was finally improving thanks to my antibiotics. The rest of us, 8 fighters, Mom, the twins, and me, took 8 horses and the empty wagons through the gate. The line to get in took 30 minutes. And then came the entry fee. 3 taels of silver. Per person. 12 people. 36 taels total. We'd only recovered 33 taels from the dead bandits. We had to scrape together every last coin between us to cover the rest. I refused to touch the jewelry chests at the gate. Flashing treasure in front of a crowd of desperate people and shady guards was asking to get mugged before we even entered. 3 taels per person. No wonder thousands of refugees were piling up outside the walls with nowhere to go. An entire family's savings couldn't buy entry for one person in this economy. This county was running the biggest scam in the kingdom. Looking at that growing mob outside the gates, thousands of starving, angry, desperate people with nowhere to go, I could feel trouble brewing. That crowd was a riot waiting to happen. We needed to do our business and get out fast. I laid out the plan. Sell the jewelry, buy supplies, leave before everything exploded. I took both treasure chests to a pawn shop and haggled like my life depended on it. Those jewels were worth at least 5,000 taels on a normal day. The pawnbroker offered 1,500 because the market is down. The market is always down when you're the one selling. I trash-talked, guilt-tripped, and negotiated that weasel up to 2,000 taels. Still highway robbery, but in a famine, gold and gems meant nothing. Only grain kept you alive. 2,000 taels of silver. Not bad. Every single coin was going into grain, clothes, and supplies. Plus 2 proper carriage frames so Mom and the twins could ride like actual humans instead of being rattled around in open carts. In this world, the only real currency was food. And I planned to buy as much of it as possible before this whole region went up in flames. First stop, the pawn shop counter. I converted my 2,000 taels into 1,900 tael banknotes, and the rest in loose silver. Banknotes are lighter, harder to steal, and don't make jingling sounds that attract every thief in a 5-mile radius. Then I hit the grain store. Some guy ahead of me in line was losing his mind. 50 coins per pound of millet? It used to be 10. 60 for rough rice? Are you insane? The shop clerk didn't even blink. Buy it or leave. You're blocking real customers. 5 times normal prices. Famine economics, baby. When everyone's starving, the guy selling rice is basically a king. I skipped that rude shop and went next door where the staff at least pretended to be polite. Then I dropped my order like a bomb. 20 bushels of rough rice. 20 bushels of millet. 10 bushels of coarse flour. The clerk's eyebrows went up. Oh, and 20 bushels of premium white rice. 20 bushels of fine flour. The clerk's eyebrows nearly left his face. His abacus started clicking so fast it sounded like a tiny machine gun. Premium rice was triple the price of the cheap stuff, but Mom and the twins needed proper nutrition, not survival-grade gravel grain. Plus, buying expensive rice in this world gave me a cover story for the good food I was pulling from my pocket dimension. That'll be 1,080 taels. And because you're such a valued customer, we'll throw in a free bushel of soybeans. Over 1,000 taels.
On rice.
I paid without flinching, but inside I was screaming. Thank God for those bandit jewelry chests, or I'd be completely broke. Next, seasonings. The grain shop guy referred me to a spice dealer, and the prices made me want to lie down on the floor. Salt, 300 coins per pound. Sugar, 200. Vinegar, pepper, cinnamon, soy paste, ginger, green onions. All insanely expensive.
Onions costa 100 coins per punt.
Onions. I bought 100 pounds of salt, 100 pounds of sugar, 50 pounds each of vinegar and paste, 30 pounds of everything else. I basically emptied half the store. The owner was only willing to sell me that much salt because the grain shop had vouched for me as a VIP customer. Apparently there were purchase limits on salt, but money talks and regulations walk. 100 pounds of cooking oil too. Another 100 plus taels gone. My wallet was weeping. I had everything delivered to a rented courtyard. Jada had secured one for us when we entered the city. We needed a staging area to receive deliveries, organize supplies, and most importantly, give me a private place to shove things into my pocket dimension without anyone watching. I posted Mom and the twins as lookouts, then speed vacuumed 2/3 of everything into my spatial storage. Left 1/3 visible for appearances. The grain delivery was not subtle. Wagons rolling in, bags stacking up. Within minutes, sketchy characters started circling our courtyard like sharks smelling blood. I handled this diplomatically. I broke one guy's leg, launched several large men into the air, and stood at the gate like a bouncer at the world's most dangerous nightclub. The crowd of would-be robbers thinned out considerably. Some still lurked in the shadows, drooling, but nobody tried anything after watching me use a grown man as a projectile. Air arrived with 2 proper horse-drawn carriages, actual enclosed ones with roofs, plus 2 extra flatbed carts. Things were getting fancy. We were upgrading from refugees fleeing doom to small merchant convoy. While Air loaded grain onto carts, I went on shopping spree round 2. Clothing store, 30 full outfits plus winter coats, 20 thick quilts, 30 pairs of padded boots and socks. We were not freezing to death on the road. 300 pounds of charcoal. Because fire is nice and hypothermia is not. Then I discovered Food Street, and something inside me just snapped. The apocalypse commander in me saw prepared food for sale and went absolutely feral. 300 meat buns, 200 veggie buns, 500 steamed buns, 300 fried flatbreads, green bean soup, rice wine, candied fruit, dried snacks. Then I passed a pastry shop and bought everything that looked good. Osmanthus cake, honey milk cake, rose pastries, bite-sized cookies, date blossom cakes, red date cake. I was shopping like a woman possessed, which, technically, I was. Everything got delivered to the courtyard in waves. Each time, I'd kick everyone out, frantically stuff most of it into my pocket dimension, and leave just enough outside to look normal. Mom and the twins stood guard, probably wondering why their daughter was running a one-woman logistics operation. Jada had done his own shopping too. More grain, fabric, meat, and a complete set of cookware. When everything came together, we had roughly 8 carts of supplies. Way too conspicuous. I consolidated down to 5 flatbed carts plus the 2 enclosed carriages. Still a lot, but less please rob us and more modest traveling merchants. Now here's where my big brain really earned its keep. When we'd rented the courtyard, I told the owner we'd be staying 3 to 4 days and paid in full. This was a trap, not for us, for the people watching us. Anyone casing our operation would hear 3 to 4 days and think, perfect, let them buy more stuff, get even fatter, and we'll hit them when they're comfortable. But we were leaving today.
Right now.
Before sunset. By the time those scheming idiots realized we'd already gone, We'd be miles away with all our goods, and they'd be standing in an empty courtyard wondering what happened. Let's move. Gates close at sundown. Jair had already scouted which city gate had the fewest refugees, blocking the exit. We loaded up, rolled out, and slipped through the gates just before closing time. Total time in Anlu County, 1 day. Total spending, roughly 1,500 taels. Total supplies acquired, enough grain, clothing, and food to sustain a small army for weeks. Total people who tried to rob us, several. Total people who succeeded, 0. I call that a productive shopping trip. We bolted out of Anlu County with our carts loaded to the brim. Fast and decisive, that was the plan. But of course, a few greedy idiots from the city tried to tail us. I dealt with them before we linked up with Ergozi's group. Dealt with is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence. Use your imagination. After combining forces, we hitched every cart to a horse and flew down the road. 50 miles later, we found a dried-up riverbank to camp for the night. Wide open on all sides. No one could sneak up on us without being spotted a mile away. Mom fired up a pot and made thick millet porridge with actual meat in it. Everyone got 2 buns, 1 meat, 1 veggie. You'd think she'd served a 5-course banquet at a palace the way people reacted. Jair flopped onto his new bedroll, pulled a thick quilt up to his chin, and stared at the sky like a man who'd just discovered the meaning of life. This feels like a dream. A few days ago, I was starving and freezing, and now I'm warm, full, and lying on an actual blanket. Everyone murmured agreement. Several guys looked like they might cry again. Giada would have kicked them, but he was too busy being emotional himself. Mom and the twins were already unconscious in the carriage. 2 days of non-stop travel had knocked them out cold, which gave me time for my other project.
Surgery. I examined argusies und bifirelet.
This kid was 14, maybe 15. Skinny, dark-skinned, rough hands, shy smile. He'd been stabbed in the gut fighting bandits 2 weeks ago and had been slowly rotting from the inside ever since. The wound was deep, infected, oozing pus. The antibiotics I'd given him had stopped the fever, but the wound itself needed proper treatment. It's bad, I told him straight. I need to clean it out and stitch it shut. If you trust me, I trust you, Sister Juan. He cut me off before I could finish, then blushed. You saved my life. Do whatever you need to. I'm not scared. 14 years old, fighting wars, dying from a stab wound, and telling me not to worry. This world chewed up children and spat them out. Something in my chest tightened. I patted his head.
Relax.
I've got anesthesia. 1 little poke and you won't feel a thing. Ain't. What? Before anyone could process that word, I whipped out a syringe. The needle glinted in the firelight. Giada and Ergozi stared at it like I'd just pulled out an alien artifact, which, from their perspective, I basically had. I jabbed it near the wound before they could freak out. Within seconds, Ergozi's whole abdomen went numb. What is this miracle drug? He poked his own stomach in disbelief. I can't feel anything. Giada looked like he was witnessing actual sorcery. In this era, painkillers were legendary medicines that only the ultra-rich could access. And here I was, casually injecting one into a teenage refugee with a disposable syringe. This is too precious. Giada started. Shut up and let me work. I pulled out a scalpel and surgical thread, cleaned out the infected tissue, and stitched that wound shut with the kind of speed and precision that comes from 7 years of battlefield surgery during the apocalypse. Clean lines, tight stitches, not a wasted movement. Giada watched the whole thing in hypnotized silence. I think he stopped breathing for about 2 minutes. Disinfect. Bandage.
Done.
1 anti-inflammatory pill per day for 7 days.
Keep the wound dry.
No rough movement. Yes, Sister Juan. Whatever you say, Sister Juan. Ergozi was looking at me like I'd hung the moon. Full puppy dog devotion. After I left, I could hear Jair's crew mobbing the kid. Did it really not hurt? Not even a little. That's witchcraft. Giada shooed them all to bed, set up a watch rotation with Jair, and handled everything without me lifting a finger. This guy was a natural second in command. Every day, he saved me more headaches. The surgery was partly medical, partly strategic. I'm young. I'm a girl. In this world, people don't follow teenage girls, they follow power. Filling their bellies earned their loyalty. Showing them I could also heal their dying friends? That earned their devotion. The more extraordinary I appeared, the tighter they'd follow. Back in the carriage, I snuggled into my blanket and checked my pocket dimension. My merit points had jumped to 80. Apparently, the universe awards karma points for killing bandits and taking in strays.
Good to know.
Even better, my supernatural abilities were starting to recover. Nothing major yet, but I could feel the power stirring. Soon I'd be back, to full strength. Then things would get really fun. We all slept like rocks. First peaceful night in forever. Morning. Big breakfast, load up, hit the road. With horses and carriages, we were covering ground 5 times faster than on foot. At this rate, we'd reach the south in no time. Then my ears twitched. I stopped the convoy and jumped down. Hand on the ground, I pushed my wood element power outward, my senses stretching 5 kilometers through the root systems of dead trees until I could see, through the bark of a distant trunk, 30 riders, moving fast,
Armed.
same outfits as the bandits we'd killed. It's the bandit second in command, I announced. About 30 of them, coming our way. Jada's face went pale. They're here for revenge, yep. We'd killed their entire crew, stolen their horses, their treasure, their grain, and apparently these guys took that personally. Rude of them, honestly. We covered our tracks, Jada protested. There's only one main road from there to here, I pointed out. We spent a whole day shopping in the city and left a trail of witnesses. Any halfway competent tracker could follow the breadcrumbs. Jada groaned and started blaming himself. I should have been more careful. Look, beating himself up wasn't going to help. We had 30 angry, revenge-fueled bandits on horseback closing in on us, a convoy full of supplies we couldn't afford to lose, a recovering surgery patient, a skinny mother, and 2 toddlers. Just another Tuesday in ancient China. Nobody's fault, I told Jada. They were always going to come. The question is what we do about it. Ja wanted to run. Jada pointed out the obvious. We had 5 carts of supplies being pulled by horses. We were a grocery store on wheels. Running from cavalry with a shopping haul was like trying to outrun a cheetah while carrying a fridge.
So I made the call.
Ja, take mom, the kids, and the supplies.
Hide.
Jada, you're with me. We kill them all. Mom immediately protested. I'm not leaving you, Mom. I have magic powers, remember? If you're here, I have to protect you and fight. Plus, we didn't spend all day shopping just to lose everything in a bandit fight. Someone needs to guard the groceries. She stared at me for a long moment, then looked at the twins, then quietly accepted it because she knew I was right even if she hated it. Long Sheng grabbed my sleeve with his tiny fist, eyes wide with fear. Anan's big eyes filled with tears. My chest did the stupid twinge thing again. I knelt down. Long Sheng, you're the man of the group while I'm gone. Protect mom and your sister. His little chin went up. I'm a man. I'll protect them. I ruffled his hair, then sent them off with Ja. Watched the carts disappear into the distance. Then I went in my carriage and pulled out the fun stuff. My compound bow. Several modern steel combat knives, mass-produced, razor-sharp, light years ahead of anything this era could forge. To these people, a factory knife was basically Excalibur. Who's got the best aim? I asked the remaining guys. Skinny, the appropriately named thin dude, raised his hand immediately.
Me.
I was an army archer back in the day. Army archer. Interesting. I handed him the compound bow. The man nearly fainted from joy. His hands were shaking so bad, he wiped them on his shirt 3 times before touching it, like he was afraid his peasant fingers would contaminate a holy relic. You're really letting me use this. If you can't perform, I'm taking it back. I can. I absolutely can, Jada vouched for him. Skinny was the best shot in our entire battalion. He could hit a leaf at 100 paces. Battalion. So these guys were ex-military. That explained a lot about their coordination and combat skills. Filing that information away for later. Skinny learned the compound bow in about 2 minutes. Natural talent is a beautiful thing. I gave him 20 arrows and sent him to practice, while I set up the real surprise. I handed Jad a nylon rope for a tripwire across the road. He understood instantly and went to rig it up. Good soldier. Then I pulled out my 2 desert eagles and loaded them. Let me paint this picture for you. A teenage girl in ancient China, sitting on a rock in the fading twilight, clicking rounds into a pair of .50 caliber semi-automatic handguns. If that's not a vibe, I don't know what is. 30 bandits on horseback, coming to avenge their dead buddies. They had swords, bows, and rage. I had 2 guns and 0 patience. I was also thinking about profit margins because that's how my brain works. A second-in-command probably traveled with good supplies. This wasn't just defense. This was another shopping opportunity. 15 minutes later, hoofbeats. Getting louder. The lead rider hit the tripwire and went flying. His horse flipped. He ragdolled across the dirt. 2 more riders couldn't stop in time and ate the ground too. Skinny opened fire with the compound bow. 3 arrows, 3 hits. Beautiful. The second-in-command spotted Jada's team and charged, whip cracking. So it was you. You killed my brothers. I'll skin you alive. Dramatic. I appreciated the energy. Jada dodged the whip like a greased eel and sprinted uphill. On cue, he dropped flat. Skinny fired 3 arrows simultaneously. The boss deflected 2 with his sword, impressive, but the 3rd punched into his shoulder and knocked him off his horse. Then 30-plus bandits swarmed toward Jada's position. My guys were outnumbered 4-1. This was the moment. I raised the Desert Eagle, aimed at the second-in-command's head.
Bang!
His skull exploded like a watermelon at a shooting range. Dead silence. Every single person on that battlefield froze. Boss. His head just... Nobody understood what had happened.
No hero, no blood.
Just a thunderclap, and their leaders had burst open like a dropped pumpkin, brain matter painting the dirt. Before anyone could process it, bang.
Bang, bang, bang.
7, 8 more heads popped in rapid succession. Bodies dropping like dominoes, each one dying to an invisible force that made a sound like a god clapping. Blood and carnage everywhere, and they couldn't even see what was killing them. The surviving bandits broke completely. Whatever fight they had left evaporated the moment they watched their friends' skulls detonate from an unknown direction. They turned and ran, screaming. Giotto was not about to let survivors escape and bring more reinforcements. After them. Don't let them get away. His crew surged forward with the energy of men who'd just watched their boss lady turn heads into confetti. I kept providing cover fire from the shadows. Within minutes, every last bandit was down. Giada limped over afterward, banged up but grinning like a maniac. Miss Ruan. What was that weapon? Even Giada, a veteran soldier, was shook. He'd seen the compound bow, and thought that was the pinnacle of weaponry. Now he'd watched me vaporize skulls from 100 meters away with a piece of metal that fit in one hand. I held up the Desert Eagle. Want one? He recoiled like I'd offered him a live grenade. No. I would never covet your treasures. Relax. It's called a fire gun. Play your cards right. Maybe you'll earn one someday. His eyes went so wide I could see the whites all the way around.
You
mean it? I gave him my best unimpressed look. Depends on your performance. I will not disappoint you, Miss Ruan. Full military salute. Maximum enthusiasm. The man was practically vibrating. And there it was, the moment Giada went from hired help working for bread to true believer. He'd follow me into hell now. They all would. Not just for food, not just for safety, but because they'd seen what I could do and they wanted to be part of whatever I was building. 30 bandits eliminated. Total losses on our side. A few scratches. New inventory incoming. Whatever 30 mounted bandits carried with them. 2 battles.
50 plus bandits.
0 survivors. I tucked my Desert Eagles away and allowed myself a small, terrifying smile. The warlord business was booming. While I was busy being awesome, Skinny had already sprinted off to loot the dead bandits like a kid at an Easter egg hunt. The second-in-command had the best stuff, naturally. Not much food. Bandits apparently don't pack lunches, but around 700 or 800 taels of silver. More horses. More horse feed.
Nice.
But the real prize?
A map.
Tucked inside the boss's coat. A detailed map of the bandit gang's entire home base, complete with trap locations, guard positions, and, be still my beating heart, the grain warehouse. Their hideout was on a mountain called Diyushan right along the main highway. Prime robbery real estate. These guys had been raiding travelers for who knows how long, stockpiling everything in a mountain fortress. No wonder they were so fat, someone muttered. They've been eating well while the rest of the world starves. I looked at that map, then looked at Jada. How far? About 300 li. One day's hard ride. I smiled. The kind of smile that makes people nervous. Who wants to do another job? Next morning I got Mom and the twins settled somewhere safe, then rode out with Jada's crew. 300 li at full gallop. One very long, very sore day in the saddle. We scouted the area first. Jada sent a guy ahead to check the map against reality. He came back, confirming everything. Guard posts right where the map said, lookouts dotting the main path up the mountain. But the map also showed a secret back trail, unguarded. That's our way in. We move at dark. Night fell. We crept up the back path in total silence. Then, rounding a narrow mountain pass, I heard footsteps. People coming toward us. We dove behind rocks. A group of about 15 stumbled past, ragged, injured, scared. Definitely not bandits. They looked like escaped prisoners, checking over their shoulders every 2 seconds. Keep going. We're almost out. Just leave me behind. Shut up. We didn't escape just to abandon you. Old Ding is still up there. We have to go back for the others. They were limping past our hiding spot when one of them sensed something. Who's there? Then Jada stepped out. Old Sean?
Diao.
Is that you? Jada. They knew each other. I watched a bunch of grown men crash into each other with bear hugs, half laughing, half crying. Turns out these were Jada's lost comrades, soldiers from his old unit who'd gotten separated during a bandit attack months ago. They'd been searching for each other ever since, planning to regroup in a city called Jiangdu. Instead, this group had gotten captured by the exact bandits whose base we were about to raid. They'd been enslaved, forced to dig tunnels and build storage caves in the mountain. Worked like animals, beaten daily, starved. Many died. The ones who behaved got promoted to raiding parties, forced to rob travelers and haul loot back to the mountain. Tonight, they'd escaped while the bandits got drunk. But their buddy Old Ding had stayed behind to cover their retreat and gotten recaptured. We found a cave to talk in. The escaped guys looked like death, gaunt, pale, trembling. I pulled buns and steamed bread from my pack and handed them over without a word. Their leader, Shan Yu Yang, noticed me for the first time. Hard to miss, honestly. I was the only one here in men's clothes who clearly wasn't a man. Jada jumped in. This is Miss Ruan Yu. She's our benefactor. Without her, we'd all be dead in a ditch somewhere. Shan Yu Yang's eyebrows went up. He knew Jada well enough to know the man didn't bow to anyone easily. For Jada to speak about someone with that much respect. This girl must be something special. I'll keep watch outside, I said. Catch up, but make it quick. The bandits could come down anytime. I left them the food and stepped out. They needed a moment and I needed to think. Behind me, I could hear Jada filling them in. The fights, the robberies, my weapons, the surgery on Ergo Z, the whole story. Wait, you came here to attack these bandits? Yep. Funny coincidence, right? Skinny started telling them about my medical skills and how I could have saved the guys who died. Then caught himself mid-sentence. The cave went silent. Some wounds weren't the kind I could stitch up. Jada cleared his throat. What's done is done. Let's focus on rescuing Old Ding and whoever else is still up there. He pulled out the map. We got this off the second in command. Check the guard positions. Do they match what you saw inside? So here's where we stood. We'd come to rob a bandit fortress and accidentally stumbled into a rescue mission for Jada's lost brothers. The universe just kept handing me soldiers, and all I had to do was feed them. A mountain full of enslaved prisoners, stockpiled grain, and treasure, guarded by drunk bandits whose leadership I'd already decapitated. This wasn't a raid anymore. This was a heist, a rescue, and a recruitment drive, all rolled into one. I love it when a plan accidentally gets better. Jada's old army buddies turned out to be exactly the intel we needed. They gathered around the map, cross-referencing every guard post against what they'd memorized during months of slavery. Maps accurate but outdated. New guard posts here and here. Sneaking past all of them undetected? Not happening. Shan Yuyang had a simpler idea. He dragged his thumb across his throat. We don't sneak past them. We go through them. I know this place inside out. I'll guide you. We rescue our people first, then hit the rest from the inside. Jada looked at me. I nodded. Good plan. Let's go. 15 minutes of strategy. Then we moved. 20-something of us crept up the mountain in the dark, Shan Yuyang leading. Guard posts fell one by one. Silent kills, bodies dragged out of sight. These ex-soldiers knew what they were doing. We slipped into the fortress like ghosts. The place was massive. Winding paths, multiple buildings, the whole bandit kingdom set up. We wound through until we reached the prisoner area in the back. What we found there made my blood go cold. Old Ding and several others were hanging from wooden frames, whipped until their skin hung in ribbons. And the bandits? They'd gotten bored of just whipping them, so they'd lit fires under their feet. The prisoners were screaming as flames licked their legs, and the bandits were laughing, sitting around watching people burn like it was entertainment. Shan Yuyang and Jia didn't even hesitate. They charged. Shan Yuyang took the lead torturers' head clean off with one swing. No words. No warning. Just thwack. Head rolls. Blood fountains. Chaos erupts. One bandit tried to scream for help. I removed his throat before the sound came out. We cut old Ding down. The man was charred, bleeding, barely conscious, and his first reaction was fury. Give me a sword. I'm going to butcher those animals. These soldiers, I swear. Half dead and still ready to fight. As we freed more prisoners, the noise grew. Inevitable. The whole fortress woke up. Intruders in the compound. The big boss, the actual number one leader of this entire bandit gang, came storming out with 100 fighters behind him. Swords, axes, torches. The whole welcoming committee. Kill them. Shan Yuyang roared, months of rage erupting at once. His original group had been over 200 soldiers. The bandits had killed or starved nearly half of them. Every man fighting tonight had a dead friend to avenge. Two armies clashed in the torchlight.
Pure chaos.
Blood everywhere. Jada's crew held their own thanks to my modern steel weapons, but the freed prisoners were starved, injured, and running on nothing but hatred. They were losing ground fast. Time for the Desert Eagle. I aimed at the big boss. Fired. And the lucky son of he grabbed the guy next to him and used him as a human shield. The bullet punched through the shield's chest instead.
Pure battlefield instinct.
This guy had survived a long time for a reason. Over there. Get whoever's shooting. He kept pulling people in front of himself, pointing his men toward my position. Fine. I kept shooting. Every shield he grabbed died instantly. The pile of bodies around him grew. The closer his men got to me, the faster they dropped. His human shield supply was running out real fast. Finally, he ran out of people to hide behind. 1 second of hesitation. I put a bullet right between his eyes. His head snapped back. Body crumpled like a puppet with cut strings.
Done.
The boss is dead. He's down.
Charge.
For our brothers. The momentum flipped like a switch. Freed prisoners surged forward with screaming, crying, murderous fury. Every man who'd been whipped, starved, burned, and humiliated poured everything they had into those final hours. I holstered the Desert Eagle. 1 full box of ammo already spent, and I wasn't wasting the rest. Grabbed a machete and waded in personally. Every swing dropped a bandit. I moved through them like a machine, and Jada's crew fed off my energy, fighting harder than ever. The battle lasted all night. By dawn, it was over. Every single bandit, dead. Every prisoner, free. Jia did a head count. Beyond our own people, we'd liberated over 100 kidnapped civilians. Men, women, regular people snatched off the road and forced into slavery. The women were the worst. When we found them, most were barely clothed, eyes vacant, completely shut down inside. I knew without asking what had been done to them. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. These bandits had died too quickly. They deserved worse. I took off my outer coat and draped it over the nearest woman. She stared at it for a moment. Then something ignited behind her dead eyes. She bolted upright, grabbed a brick-sized rock off the ground, ran to the nearest bandit corpse, and started smashing his skull. Over and over and over.
Die.
Die. Shan Yu Yang's men started toward her. I held up my hand. Let her. They froze. Looked at each other. Stepped back. She smashed until there was nothing left to smash. Then she sat down in the blood and stared at nothing. Sometimes rage is the only medicine that works. Then came inventory. And
My God.
Jiada's report. Over 100 bushels of grain in the warehouse. 3 crates of weapons. 3,000 taels of silver. I nodded. Not bad. Also, in the boss's personal quarters. 50,000 taels in banknotes. 18 chests of jewelry. Plus antiques, paintings, and assorted valuables. I'm sorry. 50,000 taels? This one mountain bandit had been sitting on a fortune that would make city merchants weep. Years of highway robbery, all neatly stored in his bedroom like a dragon sitting on gold. My brain immediately switched to logistics mode. I distributed a portion of grain to the freed civilians. Anyone who wanted to leave could take food and go. About half of them left immediately. The other half had nowhere to go, so they asked to join Shan Yu Yang's group. More people. More mouths. More soldiers. The pattern continued. I told Jiada my decision. We're staying here to rest and recover. Everyone needed it. Shan Yu Yang's men were walking skeletons covered in whip marks and burns. Jiada's crew was stacking injuries like a loyalty card. Even I was running on fumes. So we'd claimed ourselves a mountain fortress with food, weapons, silver, and a treasury that could fund a small nation. Not a bad upgrade from homeless refugees fleeing a drought. Total bandit kill count across 3 engagements, somewhere north of 100. Total resources acquired. More than I could carry without a pocket dimension. Total time elapsed since I woke up in a coffin about 2 weeks. At this rate, I'd have my own kingdom by autumn. Jiada brought his 3 old buddies to see me like a kid introducing his friends to a strict parent. Miss Ruan, these are my brothers from the Black Hawk Battalion. I know it's a big ask, but please take them in. All 3 of them, Shan Yu Yang, Ding Xian, and Diao Mu, dropped to their knees. Full kowtow. Maximum formality. I looked down at them. If you follow me, you follow my orders. No arguments, no committee votes. No, but actually. One voice in this group, and it's mine. Still interested? They glanced at each other for about half a second. Yes. Shan Yu Yang gave a whole speech about how I'd saved them from certain death, how they owed me everything, eternal loyalty, blah blah blah. Diao Mu offered a blood oath. If I break my word, may lightning strike me dead. I don't believe in karma, I said flatly. All 3 faces fell like sad puppets. But I'll let you tag along. Provisionally. Impress me. Instant relief. You'd think I'd given them Christmas presents.
Jiada was beaming.
His boys were back together and gainfully employed under a boss who kept them fed. Life was good. I left to go pick up Mom and the twins from where Air had hidden them. Behind me, I could hear the guys finally exhaling. That girl is terrifying, Shan Yu Yang whispered. I felt like I was standing in front of a general. She's really just a farm girl? You're sure you're not messing with us? She's a farm girl, Jiada said.
But, yeah.
She does remind me of the general sometimes. Silence fell. Heavy silence. The kind that comes with grief. If the court hadn't betrayed the general, if those corrupt politicians hadn't cut our supplies and left us to die, Ding Xian. Stop. So that was their story. Ex-military. Black Hawk Battalion. Betrayed by their own government. Their general murdered by political scheming. Their unit destroyed fighting barbarian invaders with no reinforcements. The survivors scattered, captured, enslaved. And now they were following a teenage girl because she reminded them of the commander they'd lost. Shan Yu Yang murmured to himself. Strange. I barely know her, but I trust her. Yeah, buddy. That's called charisma. I had it in my last life too. It's kind of my thing. I brought Mom and the kids up the mountain by late evening. The place was already transformed. Every bandit corpse had been dumped into the tunnels the prisoners had been forced to dig. Poetic justice, forcing the bandits' graves to be the caves their slaves built. The entrances were sealed shut permanently. The fallen soldiers got proper burials on a beautiful hillside with grave markers and everything. These guys took care of their dead. I respected that. We rested for 3 days. Not enough for full recovery, but we couldn't stay longer. Scouts had spotted barbarian tracks nearby. Small patrols for now, but where there were scouts, the main army wouldn't be far behind. And barbarian warriors were a completely different threat level from highway bandits. My current forces would get steamrolled. Time to move. Before leaving, I had a logistics issue. Too much grain to carry. We loaded half onto our wagons. The other half? I told everyone I'd arrange transport to a safe location. Then I waited until nobody was looking and vacuumed it all into my pocket dimension. Problem solved. I love spatial storage. The civilians who'd stayed at the fortress after liberation were now terrified about the barbarians and begged to come with us. I tried to discourage them, but they literally would not leave.
Fine.
More people, more problems, but also more potential recruits. The night before departure, Jada's crew went up the hill to the graves. They drank and said goodbye to their fallen brothers one last time. Tomorrow they'd march south and might never return. I let them have their moment. Even warlords in training need to process grief.
Dawn. Departure day.
I stood at the front of our convoy and did a head count. When I'd started this journey, I had 1 starving mother, 2 stick-figure toddlers, and myself. Now I had over 200 people, 150 trained soldiers from the Black Hawk Battalion, 40-something civilians including women, elderly, and children, horses, wagons, grain, weapons, silver, and a treasury worth tens of thousands of taels. I organized immediately. All able-bodied men between 15 and 35 went into Jada's military unit for training. I taught Jada and his officers some modern military drills and management techniques, formation tactics, chain of command, supply logistics. Their eyes went wide. This was centuries ahead of anything they'd learned in the Imperial Army. Everyone else, the elderly, women, children, got assigned roles too. I gathered them before we left and delivered a short speech. My group doesn't carry dead weight. If you travel with us, you work. Cooking, washing, mending, scouting, foraging, everybody contributes. And if I catch anyone bullying, stealing, or being a parasite, you're out. Permanently. 200 pairs of eyes stared at me. Nobody breathed. Questions? No?
Good.
Let's move. They fell in line like trained soldiers. Even the ones with clever ideas about freeloading swallowed them instantly. Turns out watching a 5-foot-something girl explode bandit skulls with a magic thunder weapon is an excellent motivational tool. So there I was, leading a column of 200 refugees, soldiers, and civilians southward through a drought-ravaged, barbarian-infested, war-torn wasteland. I had horses, weapons, food, money, a pocket dimension full of mutant beef, and a crew of battle-hardened veterans who called me Miss, with the same reverence they'd once reserved for their dead general. 2 weeks ago, I woke up in a coffin. Now I was basically a warlord. Life comes at you fast. The women in our group were working like their lives depended on it, because in their minds they did. They were terrified I'd kick them out, so they threw themselves into every possible task. Cooking, sewing, laundry, feeding horses, hauling supplies. If a job existed, they were fighting over who got to do it. Xiao-yi, the woman who'd turned a bandit's skull into gravel with a rock, came to me personally. Her child had been killed by the bandits. Her whole family was gone. She begged to stay, even as a slave. I don't do slaves, I told her. No slavery in my group.
Period.
You want to stay? Make yourself useful. She took that personally, in the best way. Within days, she'd organized every woman in the convoy into a full-service operations crew. They handled all the domestic logistics, which freed up the soldiers to actually train. Smart woman. I filed her away as future management material. Meanwhile, the military side was shaping up nicely. Jiada distributed all the captured bandit weapons, enough swords for almost everyone. Shan Yuyang and Ding Xian built specialized units, a 30-person archery squad and a 20-person scout team. Both guys had run these exact units in the Black Hawk Battalion, so they knew what they were doing. Arrows were scarce. Only 80 total, barely 2 per archer, so Shan Yuyang had his guys chopping trees and carving wooden arrows. Not ideal, but functional. Jiada and Diao Mu took charge of the main fighting force. 120 men split into 6 squads, each with a squad leader. Proper chain of command.
Gruppe disciplina.
These ex-soldiers were building a real military unit, not a ragtag refugee mob. 300 people marching in organized formation with weapons tends to discourage casual robbery attempts. Most people took one look at us and kept walking. The few idiots who tried their luck became free training exercises for the new recruits. Thanks for volunteering, guys. I delegated the daily operations to Jiada's team and focused on myself. This body was still pathetically weak. I trained every spare moment, running, fighting drills, pushing my limits. The good news, I could finally go more than 10 minutes without wheezing like an asthmatic grandpa. My wood element power was coming back too. I tested it on rice seeds. I could fast grow them to maturity, producing about 10 pounds of rice per session before hitting my limit. 3 growth cycles max. I could also control plants within a 7-meter radius, but only small ones under a meter tall.
Offensive plan combat?
Not yet. In my old life, I'd had battle pets, killer thorn vines, carnivorous flowers, weaponized fly traps. The seeds for those were all locked in my second-floor arsenal. Then I checked my merit points and nearly choked. 2,000. They jumped by over 2,000 in one shot. Rescuing 100+ enslaved prisoners and killing an entire bandit fortress apparently earned massive karma. The universe was basically giving me achievement bonuses for violence against bad people. My favorite kind of reward system. Then a message popped into my head. Spend 1,000 points to unlock floor 2. I stared at that prompt for a solid 5 seconds. So merit points didn't just restore my powers. They could expand my spatial dimension? This changed everything.
Nog eens het tastje. Yes.
Unlock it. Merit points. 2,280, 1,280. The dimension shuddered. Something clicked. I ran to the staircase and, for the first time since arriving in this world, walked up to the second floor. The weapons room. My beautiful weapons room. I pressed my thumb to the fingerprint scanner. The door opened. 200 square meters of pure military heaven spread out before me. Let me walk you through it, because this moment deserves a slow-motion montage with dramatic music, firearms, handguns, assault rifles, submachine guns, machine guns.
Just.
Rows and rows of guns, gleaming under the lights like a very illegal museum exhibit. Ammunition, 30 crates.
100,000 rounds per crate.
That's 3 million bullets. I had more ammo than most small countries. Tactical gear, bulletproof vests, helmets, headlamps, walkie-talkies, military infrared binoculars, camouflage uniforms. Explosives, stacked against the wall in black cases. Flashbangs, thermite grenades, frag grenades. Over 100 of each. Enough to level a small castle. Medieval-compatible weapons, combat knives, spears, axes, batons. 20 crossbows, 20 compound bows, 10 repeating crossbows, 100 arrows. And the piece de resistance, a glass cabinet full of neatly organized boxes. Inside each box, seed packets. My combat plant seeds from the apocalypse. I grabbed a thorn vine seed and pushed my power into it. It sprouted in seconds, growing into a meter-long thorny tentacle covered in razor spikes, writhing like a living snake. I flicked my wrist, and it snatched a pistol off the wall rack. I tested its attack power against a target dummy. The dummy exploded into pieces. Not bad. Not full strength, but enough to ruin someone's day. After 15 minutes, my head was splitting from the effort, and the vine withered. Still too weak for sustained combat botany. But it was progress. So let me do the math on what I now had access to. Floor 1. Luxury kitchen, living room, food storage. 40 tons of grain, 100 tons of mutant meat, all the modern comforts. Basement, giant warehouse of supplies, water, and provisions. Floor 2, an armory that would make a military base jealous. Guns, grenades, combat plant seeds, tactical equipment. Floors 3 to 7, still locked. My original dimension had 7 floors total, plus a 20-acre farm outside with crops, vegetables, and fruit trees. Each floor probably cost more merit points to unlock. Oh, and apparently I also used to have an interdimensional shopping mall where I could buy stuff from other universes, including a healing pod from a futuristic space civilization. That was temporarily unavailable. But if I kept grinding merit points, who knew what would come back online? The formula was clear. Save people earn karma, unlock more of my cheat code dimension, become more powerful, save more people earn more karma. It was a virtuous cycle powered by violence against evil people. My absolute favorite kind of business model. So, naturally, the first thing I did after unlocking floor 2 was check the price list for everything else. The universe helpfully displayed a menu in my brain like some kind of cosmic shopping app. Basement floor 2, 2,000 points. Basement floor 3, 3,000 points. Villa floor 3, 1,500 points. Villa floor 4, 2,000 points. Farm/garden, 5,000 points. Interdimensional shopping mall, 10,000 points. So my entire pocket dimension was basically a free-to-play mobile game with purchasable expansions. Pay karma, unlock content. The universe was running a gacha system on me. Floor 3 had my personal training room, decked out with high-end exercise equipment I'd collected from military facilities around the world. Also my bedroom and library. I miss my bed. Floor 4 was where things got wild. I'd converted it into a sunroom greenhouse, where I kept my battle pets, 2 golden pythons, a mutant combat lizard, and a swarm of killer bees. All of them had bonded with me through my psychic powers after I'd healed their injuries. Loyal murder pets who'd fight to the death for me. Oh, and I should probably mention my secret second ability. Everyone in my old world thought I was just a wood element user. But I also had time-space manipulation. I could control time and space within a limited area. Rewind objects to their prime condition. Reattach severed limbs. Basically localized reality editing. It was so absurdly overpowered I'd kept it hidden my entire previous life. But all of that was locked behind merit point paywalls. For now, I worked with what I had, Floor 2's magnificent armory. First order of business, 1,000 modern alloy arrows for Shan Yu Yang's archery squad. I handed them over casually. Shan Yu Yang's eyes nearly popped out when he tested one. It punched clean through a tree trunk. Then he shot a rock and the arrow drilled a hole in it. Stone. An arrow. Through stone. He turned to me, mouth open. Where did you get? She gave them to you, so use them. Stop asking questions. Jada snapped. Already trained in the art of. Don't ask Miss Ruan about her supply chain. Shan Yu Yang got the message. He bowed, apologized, and scurried off to distribute arrows like a kid on Christmas morning. 30 arrows per archer, 100 in reserve. Then I armed the infantry. 120 Tang Dao, elegant, razor-sharp curved swords that made the captured bandit blades look like butter knives. 30 military combat knives. 20 triangular bayonets. Jada grabbed the weapons and literally ran away before I could change my mind. This man was terrified I'd say, just kidding, and take them back. For the scout team, I went full tactical. Military infrared binoculars, see in the dark, headlamps, and bulletproof vests. I handed everything to Ding Xian and watched his face cycle through confusion, disbelief, and pure rapture. Then I held training sessions. How to use infrared optics, intelligence gathering techniques, camouflage and concealment, communication codes and hand signals, coordinated 3-unit tactics, how the archers, scouts, and infantry should work together, communicate during battle, maximize damage while minimizing casualties. I was basically running a military academy from horseback, teaching ancient soldiers modern warfare doctrine. Their minds were blown. These were experienced veterans who'd fought real wars, and they were learning things that made their old training look like kindergarten. Within 20 days, I had transformed a ragged mob of refugees into something resembling an actual fighting force. Everyone was eating well, Meat at least once a day for the soldiers, 2 guaranteed meals for everyone else. People were visibly gaining weight and muscle. The hollow-cheeked, yellow-skinned skeleton look was fading, replaced by actual healthy human beings. 60 bushels of grain consumed in 20 days. Expensive, but manageable between the bandit loot and foraging. We had money. All courtesy of dead bandits, the gift that kept on giving. We reached a new county town and decided to rest for a day. Unlike Enlu County's highway robbery, this place only charged 5 coins per person to enter. Total cost for 300 people, less than 2 taels. That's more like it. We split into groups and entered the city. I was planning a nice, relaxed supply run. Maybe buy some grain, browse some shops, let everyone decompress. We'd been inside for less than half a day when everything went sideways. Barbarians. The barbarians are here. They're inside the city. Miss Ruan? Barbarian army just breached the gates. We need to go. Jada sprinted to me with panic written across his face. An actual barbarian invasion force had just stormed the city. No warning. No scouts had spotted them approaching. They just appeared. Like the universe decided my day was going too smoothly and needed a difficulty spike. I didn't freeze.
Didn't panic.
Didn't waste a single second. All units, rally at the south gate. Now, 300 people scattered across the city, barbarian warriors pouring through the gates, civilians screaming and running in every direction. 2 weeks ago, I was worried about bandits. Now I was dealing with an actual army. This escalated quickly. Jada fired the signal flare. Red burst across the sky, our code for, "Everything is on fire, get here now." Every member of our group scattered across the city saw it and started sprinting toward the south gate. I ran too, heart pounding, because that's where I'd left Mom and the twins to rest.
Please be okay. Please be okay.
Please be. SIS. 2 tiny missiles launched themselves at my legs. The twins. Safe. Mom right behind them, pale but unharmed. I exhaled so hard, I almost deflated. Then I noticed Shan Yu-yang had a fresh slash on his arm, dripping blood. What happened? He shrugged like it was nothing. Ran into some barbarians on the way here. They're handled. Mom looked guilty. He got hurt protecting us. So Shan Yu-yang had taken a sword for my family. I looked at him for a long moment. Get that bandaged. That was my version of, I owe you my soul, and I'll never forget this. He understood. Ding Xian rushed up with the intel report. Barbarians have taken the main street. Burning, killing, looting everything. Over 300 inside the city, and there's 1,000 more 30 miles out. 1,000. Professional barbarian warriors. The real deal, not highway bandits playing dress-up. The air got very heavy very fast. These barbarians are monsters. Jada said, jaw tight. Superhuman strength, curved swords, and they kill for fun. They bleed people out like slaughtering livestock. I raised an eyebrow. Scared, every single soldier's face hardened into stone. Never. They murdered our brothers. We've been waiting for this. Good answer. An army that's already defeated in its head has already lost. These guys were angry, focused, and hungry for payback. That I could work with. We're not going head-to-head, I said. Remember the tactics I taught you 2 days ago? Their eyes lit up simultaneously. Urban warfare. Exactly. In open terrain, 300 barbarians would shred our forces. But in narrow streets and alleys? Advantages flip completely. Tight spaces neutralize cavalry and brute strength. Ambush positions everywhere. High ground, on every rooftop. The city itself becomes the weapon. Anyone know this town? Jiaomu's hand shot up. I grew up near here. Used to come to this market with my dad. I already mapped every street and alley when you sent us scouting earlier. Beautiful. His whole family had been killed by barbarians 3 years ago. Now he was going to use his childhood memories of this town to help destroy them.
Poetry.
I split our forces into 3 teams. I led one. Jada and Diaomu each took one. Ding Xian got the critical job. Take 20 elite soldiers, escort Mom, the twins, and all our non-combatants out through the south gate.
Now.
Mom grabbed my hand before leaving. She knew this wasn't like fighting bandits. Barbarians were professional killers on a completely different level. She wanted to beg me not to fight. I could see it in her eyes. But she swallowed it. She understood that running with 300 people, including elderly, women, and children, meant the barbarians would catch us eventually. Someone had to stay and fight, or everyone would die. She squeezed my hand, said nothing, and left. Strongest thing she'd ever done. Ding Xian's team carved through the barbarian guards at the south gate like butter. Civilians trapped inside the city saw the opening and poured out behind them, hundreds of terrified people stampeding to freedom. Unplanned evacuation assistance. More merit points for me, probably.
Now.
Time to hunt. We moved into the streets. Set up ambush positions. Took the high ground on rooftops. Rigged choke points. The city became our trap. From deeper in town, we could hear screaming. Civilians being slaughtered. Then we saw them. 7 or 8 barbarians chasing unarmed civilians down a street, laughing like it was a game. One of them casually slit an old man's throat while his grandson watched. The grandson screamed, tried to fight. They dragged him back like a dog, chopped off his leg with one swing. The boy collapsed, blood everywhere, trying to crawl away on the stumps. A barbarian planted his boot on the kid's back.
Run.
Go ahead, try to run. Ha 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 ha. These Shang people are so fragile, they were enjoying it. To them, murder was entertainment. This wasn't warfare, it was a hunting trip, and we were the animals. Then something happened that shut everyone up. That boy, the one with one leg, bleeding out on the ground, suddenly erupted. He pulled a hidden knife from somewhere and slashed the barbarian's throat wide open. Before anyone could react, he lunged at a second barbarian and started stabbing him in the chest over and over and over. The barbarian ran a sword through the boy's stomach, but the kid didn't even flinch.
Just kept stabbing.
The other barbarians stood there laughing, watching their buddy get murdered by a dying child and finding it amusing. A prey animal fighting back was more interesting to them. More fun. When the boy finally ran out of strength, they closed in. He was fading fast, guts spilling out, but he wouldn't let go of his knife. They kicked his hand. He held on tighter. With his last breath, he snarled at them. I curse you. Heaven will never forgive you. You animals deserve hell. The lead barbarian grinned. Heaven? I'll send you to meet him right N. His head exploded. No warning. No sound they could understand. Just pop, skull fragments and brain matter raining down on his friends. Then arrows screamed out of the shadows. 3 barbarians dropped with shafts through their chests before anyone processed what was happening. By the time the rest tried to react, they were already corpses on the ground. Welcome to urban warfare, gentlemen. Class is in session, and the tuition is your lives. The boy, the one who'd just killed a barbarian with his own guts hanging out, stared at the pile of dead barbarians surrounding him and started laughing like a maniac.
See?
Your punishment is here. You're all going to hell. Then he noticed us standing there, and his brain caught up.
Wait.
Who are you? I sent Shan Yang to get the kid to safety while the rest of us clean the scene. Bodies dragged away. Street wiped down. Within minutes, it looked like nothing had happened. Urban Warfare 101. Leave no evidence. Let the enemy wonder where their guys went. The boy was fading fast, bleeding from everywhere. He looked up at Shan Yang's crew with desperate hope. Are you the Black Hawk Army? Did you come to save us? Every soldier in earshot felt that one like a punch to the chest. Years after the army was destroyed, ordinary people still remembered them, still believed in them. I don't want to die, the boy whispered, coughing blood. His stomach wound was gushing. His severed leg was lying on the ground 3 feet away. I want to live. I want to kill every last barbarian. For my family. I looked at this kid, missing a leg, stomach slashed open, bleeding out on dirty cobblestones. By any reasonable medical assessment, he had about 2 minutes left.
Who said you're dying? I said.
Everyone froze. I can save you. But here's the deal. Your life becomes mine. You work for me. The boy didn't hesitate for even a fraction of a second. Save me and my life is yours. Remember you said that. I knelt down and placed my hand over his stomach wound. Then I activated my second ability, The one I'd kept secret through an entire apocalypse. Golden light poured from my palm. The bleeding stopped. The wound started closing, flesh knitting together like a time-lapse video of healing played at 10x speed. Shan Yuyang looked like someone had slapped him with a fish. His jaw was somewhere around his knees. His brain was visibly short-circuiting. Then I said the words that really broke everyone. Hand me the leg. The what? His leg. The one on the ground. Give it to me. Shan Yuyang robotically picked up the severed limb and handed it over like a man in a trance. I pressed the leg against the stump. Golden light again. Tiny blood vessels sprouted from both sides, reaching for each other, connecting. Bone regenerated. Muscle reattached. Skin sealed. In about 15 seconds, the leg was back on. Fully functional. Like it had never been cut off. Shan Yuyang made a sound that wasn't quite a word. More like a kettle reaching boiling point. Done. The boy stared at his leg. Wiggled his toes. Looked up at me. Are you a god? No. A fairy. Shan Yuyang snapped out of his trance and grabbed the kid by the collar, channeling his existential crisis into aggression. Don't ask questions you're not supposed to ask. If you breathe a word of what you saw today, I'll take your head off myself. He spun around to glare at every soldier present. That goes for all of you. Frantic nodding. Everyone was looking at me differently now. Not just respect, genuine awe mixed with a healthy dose of, what the actual heck is she? This was calculated. Shan Yuyang had taken a blade for my family today. He'd earned a peek behind the curtain. If he stayed loyal after seeing this, he'd become one of my most trusted commanders. If he got greedy or scared, well, problems are easier to solve when you spot them early. Barbarians incoming. The scout's warning cut through the moment. Back to business. Shan Yuyang's team set up an ambush. A dozen barbarians walked right into it. Arrow volley, half dropped instantly. I led the close combat squad to finish the rest. And then we just kept going. Team after team, street after street. Ambush, kill, relocate. Ambush, kill, relocate. The barbarians were spread across the city looting and murdering, completely unaware that something was hunting them. Archers softened each group with a rain of armor-piercing arrows. Then my melee team swept in to finish survivors. Clean, fast, ruthless. We were ghosts with swords. By nightfall, we'd killed somewhere between 80 and 100 barbarians. The streets were running out of barbarians to ambush. Then they finally noticed. Our numbers are dropping. Someone is picking us off. The barbarian commander, no idiot unfortunately, figured it out fast. He assembled 100+ warriors and came for us in force. They swept through the streets systematically, surrounding our position block by block until we were boxed in. Not a single escape route. We'd taken position on the 3rd floor of an inn. The only way up was through the front door. I fired a blue signal flare into the sky. Blue meant Phase 2. What's that? A barbarian grunted. Some kind of Shang communication signal, the commander said dismissively and ordered the charge. Arrows rained down on them from the rooftop. To their credit, the barbarians were disciplined. They raised shields and pushed forward. But then something wonderful happened. Our modern alloy arrows punched straight through their shields. Shields that had blocked every normal arrow they'd ever faced suddenly became decorative. Barbarians started dropping even behind their cover. This made them angry rather than scared, which, for barbarians, just meant they charged faster. They smashed through the inn's front door. 100 warriors flooding into a narrow building, rushing for the stairs. And then someone's foot hit a tripwire.
Click.
I smiled.
Boom.
The grenades I'd rigged at the entrance went off like the world's angriest welcome mat. The barbarians who'd charged through the front door became, well, let's just say they became a lot of smaller barbarians, scattered across a very wide area. The ones outside lost their minds. Fire thunder? They have fire thunder. Their commander was shook. This was supposed to be a simple cleanup operation against some ragtag guerrillas. Nobody mentioned explosives. But the guy was tough. He adapted fast. Forget the stairs. Use grappling hooks. Metal claws flew up and latched onto the 2nd floor railing. Barbarians started climbing the ropes like angry spiders. Shan Yuyang's archers picked off as many as they could, but the angle was awkward, and some made it up. They rushed the staircase to the third floor, where we were waiting. Fire. 10 repeating crossbows opened up simultaneously. The first wave of barbarians turned into human pincushions before they'd climbed 3 steps.
More.
Keep pushing. These barbarians were genuinely fearless. I'll give them that. They climbed over their own dead like stepping stones and kept coming. We kept shooting. Arrow after arrow after arrow. The commander was getting frustrated. Do these people have infinite arrows? They kinda did. Every time our supply ran low, I found another stash that I'd hidden in the inn beforehand. At this point, my soldiers believed I was basically a divine being, so nobody questioned why a random and happened to contain a military-grade weapons cache. Faith is a wonderful thing. The barbarians couldn't break through. Bodies piled up on the staircase. Their commander finally called retreat.
Too late, buddy.
That blue flare I'd fired earlier? That was the signal for Jiada and Diaomu. While I'd been playing defense in the inn, they'd been circling around with their squads. Now the barbarians retreated straight into a pincer. Kill them all. Jiada and Diaomu slammed into the barbarians from both sides. Shan Yu-yang charged down from the inn to hit them from behind. 3-sided attack. Textbook encirclement. The fighting lasted until deep into the night. But it was over. Every last barbarian in the city finished. I walked through the streets afterward. Bodies everywhere. Jiada was already doing cleanup and inventory. 316 barbarian casualties confirmed. 170 warhorses captured. 3,300 taels of silver. Plus their weapons. They hit the grain stores first, he added quietly. Killed everyone inside. Owners, workers, all of them. That confirmed my suspicion. These 300 weren't random raiders. They were an advance force, securing food supplies for a much larger barbarian army coming behind them. Our casualties. Jiada paused. 17 dead. 33 seriously wounded. Silence. 17 people who'd been alive this morning. People I'd fed, armed, trained.
Gone.
Miss Wan, this is actually remarkable, Jiada said carefully. We wiped out over 300 elite barbarians. Even in the Black Hawk Army's best days, we rarely achieved results like this. He was right. The numbers were extraordinary. But numbers don't bring back the dead. Are we good on medicine? Prioritize the critical cases. I was surveying the wounded, soldiers propped against walls, bleeding through bandages, when a voice rang out from the darkness. Who goes there? A crowd of civilians emerged, holding torches and farm tools. Their leader was a group of young men armed with hoes and shovels, looking like the world's most determined gardening club. Then the boy we'd saved earlier, the Legri attachment kid, burst through the crowd shrieking. Brother, is that you? Turns out he had 3 older brothers and they were all alive. The 4 of them crashed together in a pile of tears and hugging. Their parents and grandfather were dead, killed by barbarians, but at least they had each other. The oldest brother, Zhuang Changsheng, approached me with red eyes and a deep bow. Thank you for saving our brother. I nodded and had Shan Yang take them to the 3rd floor where we'd laid out their grandfather's body. They came back down carrying him, faces set in quiet grief. Then Changsheng offered something useful. I know a place we can shelter. The county magistrate's mansion. That coward fled with his entire staff the second he heard barbarians were coming. Left every citizen to die. The crowd erupted in cursing. Apparently, this magistrate had been useless long before today, ignoring the people during the drought, and now literally abandoning them to be slaughtered. Classic government official. Turns out the 3 Zhuang brothers were students at a prestigious local academy. Educated, respected, natural leaders. When the barbarians attacked, they'd organized their fellow students and local men to evacuate the elderly, women, and children to safety. The only reason the barbarians hadn't found those civilians was because MY team had kept the enemy busy fighting us all day. We moved operations to the magistrate's abandoned mansion. Set up a proper medical ward in one courtyard. The Zhuang brothers brought doctors from the city, plus medicine and food. Local civilians came voluntarily to help, cooking, bandaging, hauling water. We didn't need the extra medicine, honestly. My pocket dimension had plenty. But when people show up wanting to help after you just saved their city, you don't turn them away. You let them contribute. That's how you build loyalty, not just with soldiers but with entire communities. 17 dead, 33 wounded, 316 barbarians eliminated, 170 warhorses. A city saved. My first real battle against a professional military force, fought with a half-trained militia using guerrilla tactics from a future that hadn't been invented yet. First war. Won. But somewhere out there, 1,000 more barbarians were marching this way. And they'd be a lot angrier when they found out what happened to their advance team. Time to prepare. While I handled strategy, Jiada, Shan Yuyang, and Diao Mu went on a city-wide scavenging spree. Grain, medicine, fabric, horses, anything useful that didn't have a living owner attached to it. The barbarian main army would roll through soon, and anything we left behind was just a care package for the enemy. We grabbed what we could in a few hours and prepped to leave at dawn. First light, gear packed, army assembled. Time to go. We marched to the city gate and found
A surprise.
3,000 people were waiting for us. Families with carts, bundles, children, grandparents. The entire city plus several nearby villages had apparently held an emergency meeting and decided that following the scary teenage girl with the magic arrows was their best survival plan. Please take us with you. The barbarians will kill us all if we stay. 3,000. Half of them elderly, women, and small children. People who couldn't fight, couldn't march fast, and would eat through my food supply like termites through a log cabin. Look, I'm not heartless. But I'm also not stupid. 3,000 random civilians with zero loyalty, zero discipline, and maximum opinions was a recipe for disaster. I needed to filter this crowd fast, and I needed people who would actually follow orders without turning every decision into a town hall debate. So I went nuclear. You want to come? Sign a servitude contract. You become my people. My rules. No negotiation. I had Jiada pull out a stack of pre-written contracts. Yes, I'd prepared them in advance. Yes, I'd predicted this exact scenario. Being a military strategist means thinking 3 steps ahead, even about paperwork. The crowd erupted. Slavery? You want us to become slaves? We thought you were different from the nobles. You're supposed to be heroes. You should protect us, Shan Yuyang, who'd initially thought the contract idea was harsh. Watch the crowd's attitude flip from grateful survivors to entitled customers in about 4 seconds flat. His sympathy evaporated like water in this drought. Heroes, he barked. We're not heroes. We were passing through and fought in self-defense. Your own government officials ran away the second they heard barbarians. Why is it our job to protect you? We lost 17 people yesterday. 17 of our brothers died fighting your war. You're standing here alive because of their blood. The crowd went quiet. Briefly. We're not signing. No way. Then leave.
Right now.
Barbarians could arrive any minute, and we're not waiting around for a group vote. 2/3 of them stormed off, cursing and complaining. Some gambled that the barbarians wouldn't come back and stayed in the city. Others headed out on their own with whatever they could carry.
Bye.
Best of luck. Don't let the barbarian invasion hit you on the way out. About 1,000 stayed. The smart ones. The Zhuang brothers, the academy students who'd organized civilian evacuations during the battle, were first in line. They'd done the math. Sign a piece of paper and live under someone competent, or stay free and die under a barbarian sword. Easy choice. Chong Song, the kid whose leg I'd reattached, slammed his thumbprint onto the contract so hard I thought he'd break the table. You saved my life. My life is yours. Wherever you go, whatever you order, fire, blades, anything, I'm there. Forever. This kid had watched me regrow his severed limb with golden light. He hadn't told his brothers about it either. He decided on his own that my secret was worth keeping because, and I quote his internal logic, she was sent by heaven, and if too many people know, she might leave. Adorable. Paranoid. Useful. His brothers followed. Then their entire village. Then the academy students and their teachers. Then the remaining civilians one by one. Thumbprints on paper. 1,000 souls. Committed. Some people who'd pretended to leave had actually been lurking nearby, watching. When they saw the signing happening without any drama, no chains, no branding, just paper and ink, they realized they'd miscalculated. But by then the window was closing, and they skulked away for real, bitter and regretful. Here's the thing those angry people didn't understand. The servitude contract wasn't about owning people. It was an attitude test. A loyalty filter run at speed. I didn't have time to interview 3,000 strangers about their values and work ethic. I needed to know one thing. Will you follow orders when it matters? Anyone willing to sign that paper in exchange for safety and food was telling me, I'll cooperate. I'll listen. I'll contribute. Anyone who refused was telling me, I want protection, but on MY terms, and I'll argue about every decision you make. Those people would have been a liability in any crisis. My soldiers had paid for yesterday's victory with blood. 17 levs. And these civilians wanted the same protection for free, with no obligations, while complaining about the service.
Sorry.
This isn't a charity. This is a survival operation, and the price of admission is commitment. So, new headcount. 300 original soldiers and support staff, plus roughly 1,000 new civilians. Total group, over 1,300 people. Horses, weapons, wagons, supplies, and a barbarian army somewhere behind us that was about to be very angry. Time to move.
Fast.
Now, to be clear, I wasn't actually planning to keep anyone as slaves forever. The contracts were a filter, not a lifestyle. Once people proved they could follow orders and not be a problem, they'd get their papers back. Think of it as a probationary period with extra dramatic flair. We didn't even have time for proper contracts. The academy students helped us scribble down names and collect thumbprints as fast as possible. 1,000 people, speed process like the world's most desperate DMV line. Formal paperwork could wait until we weren't being chased by an army of murderers. And off we went. 1,300 people marching south. Behind us, the people who'd refused to sign were spitting on the ground and talking trash.
Pa.
Thought they were heroes. Turns out they're just like the corrupt officials. Those idiots who signed are going to get sold. Watch. Some of them, the clever but cowardly types, didn't sign but followed us anyway, hanging back at a safe distance like remora fish on a shark. Their brilliant strategy. Let us do all the fighting, enjoy the protection for free, and never commit to anything. Real galaxy brain stuff. The ones who stayed in the city were the most confident. They had it all figured out. The barbarians already raided this place. They won't come back. We'll just hide in our houses for a few days with stolen supplies. That girl's group killed our soldiers, so the barbarians will chase her, not us. We're geniuses. They were not geniuses. One day later, 1,000 barbarian warriors stormed the city. When their commander, a terrifying mountain of muscle named Fu Tu, found out his entire advance team had been wiped out, he did not take it well. Every person still hiding in that city was dragged before him. Make them draw the faces of whoever did this. I want those people skinned alive. Then he looked at his prisoners and smiled. As for this lot, the usual. The screaming lasted until midnight. Fu Tu decorated his belt with severed heads like a grotesque charm bracelet. His soldiers stuck dismembered body parts on their swords like trophies. Those geniuses who'd stayed behind, convinced the barbarians wouldn't bother with an empty city? Every single one. I try not to think about it too hard. I gave them a chance. They chose pride over survival. The universe doesn't give refunds on bad decisions. Meanwhile, I was focused on not becoming the next collection of belt accessories. After linking up with Ding Xian's group outside the city, I got his scouting report on the surrounding terrain. After a quick strategy session with the Zhuang brothers, who knew this region like the back of their hands, we settled on our destination. Wind Chime Valley. Perfect ambush country. One narrow canyon entrance, a natural bottleneck, so tight you could barely fit 3 people side by side. High ground on both sides. Only one way in, one way out. If we set up there, 1,000 barbarians would have to squeeze through a corridor where our archers could rain death on them from above. Open field battle against 1,000 elite barbarian warriors?
Suicide.
But funnel them into a canyon? That's just math in our favor. We hauled our entire convoy there at maximum speed. 2 days of travel, done in a day and a half. Everyone marching like their lives depended on it, because they absolutely did. Wind Chime Valley was even better than described. High elevation, overlooking endless wasteland in every direction. The canyon entrance was like nature had built a kill zone just for us. I posted rotating guards at the canyon top and entrance immediately, then led everyone inside to set up camp. By nightfall, we were settled. Tents up, fires lit, perimeter secured. Those freeloaders who'd been tailing us at a distance? They camped outside the valley, like homeless people outside a gated community. When a few tried to wander in, my soldiers chased them out. This was our territory now. You want in? Should have signed the paper. Now you can sit outside and be the first thing the barbarians see when they arrive. Good luck. With the immediate crisis handled, I did a full census of our group. 1,300 people total. Actual combat-capable fighters. Under 700. Of those, 500 were brand-new civilian recruits who'd never held a weapon before yesterday. The rest were my trained soldiers, the real backbone. Time to professionalize this operation. I had Jada, Shan Yu Yang, Diao Mu, and Ding Xian each select members for their guard units. But volunteers are better than conscripts, so I dangled some incentives. Every guard unit member receives immediately 10 pounds of millet, 5 pounds of rough rice, 3 pounds of coarse flour. Eyes went wide across the camp. Monthly salary going forward. 3 taels of silver. 15 pounds of millet. 10 pounds of rough rice. 5 pounds of coarse flour. You could hear jaws hitting the ground. 3 taels a month plus food rations? In a famine where people were eating bark and dying in ditches? I was offering these people middle-class comfort in exchange for military service. The recruitment line formed so fast it created a small dust storm. Turns out nothing motivates people quite like regular meals and actual money during an apocalypse. So here I was, holed up in a natural fortress with 1,300 people, building an army from scratch, offering competitive salary packages, and waiting for 1,000 angry barbarians led by a guy who wore human heads as fashion accessories. Just another week in my exciting new life. Let me walk you through the compensation package I rolled out because I'm pretty sure I just created the world's first HR department during a famine. Squad leader, 10-man 5 taels monthly, 30 pounds of millet, 20 pounds of rough rice, 10 pounds of flour. Sentry commander, 100-man 10 taels, 50 pounds of millet, 30 pounds of rough rice, 20 pounds of flour, plus a bolt of cloth. Battalion commander, 1,000-man 30 taels, 100 pounds of millet, 80 pounds of rough rice, 50 pounds of flour, 30 pounds of premium rice, plus bolts of both hemp and cotton fabric. The camp lost its collective mind. People were running to the recruitment tent like it was a Black Friday sale. Unfortunately for some of them, I wasn't hiring just anybody. You had to be between 15 and 40, physically fit, and at least marginally competent with a weapon. The old, the frail, and the I bruise easily crowd got filtered out immediately. Then the first batch of recruits walked back to their families carrying actual bags of grain, and the entire camp watched with their jaws unhinged. It's real. They actually gave him rice. Look at it, actual grain. Not grass. Not bark. Grain. Families were weeping. Full-on ugly, crying into bags of millet. One kid came running back to his parents shouting,
Dad.
I have a salary now. We'll never be hungry again. In a world where people were literally eating dirt to survive, I was handing out steady paychecks. It was like dropping a McDonald's franchise into a post-apocalyptic wasteland. Then the bonus system kicked in, and things got really exciting. Some guy named Dozy spotted animal tracks in the hills and reported it to his squad leader. The guard unit tracked the animals down and came back with several large catches. Dozy's reward for the tip? 10 pounds of millet. The camp exploded with gossip. 10 pounds just for noticing footprints. Suddenly, every person in camp was examining the ground like a forensic detective. People who'd never tracked anything more exciting than a lost shoe were out there squinting at dirt, hoping to find animal prints worth reporting.
Instant motivation.
The math was beautiful. A guard member's monthly rations could feed a small family for a month. With careful budgeting, maybe 6 weeks. Add in the salary, and these people went from, will I die this week, to we're going to be fine. The psychological shift was massive. People weren't just surviving anymore, they were building something. But the policy I'm most proud of? Death benefits. If a soldier died in combat, their family, or whoever they designated, received 100 pounds of millet, 50 pounds of rice, and 30 pounds of flour. Giada told me it was too generous. Miss Wan, this is unprecedented. Even the Imperial Army doesn't. Nothing is worth more than a life. If someone dies fighting for us, the least we can do is make sure their family doesn't starve. This is what they're owed. He shut up after that. When word of the death benefit spread through camp, something changed. It wasn't just gratitude, it was trust. Soldiers fight harder when they know their sacrifice won't be meaningless. When they know their children won't starve if they don't come home. Ding Xian and the other commanders talked about it privately. She's the most decent leader I've ever served. The Black Hawk Army never did anything like this. If we'd met her sooner, maybe the brothers we lost wouldn't have died for nothing. Diao Mu's eyes went red. The memory of dead comrades never really fades. Shan Yuyang put a hand on his shoulder. We got lucky. Don't waste it. Train harder. After that, those 4 commanders trained their units like men possessed. Every spare minute was drills, sparring, formation practice. The gratitude had turned into rocket fuel. Now for the civilian side. The Zhuang brothers all joined the guard except the second oldest, Chang Ping, who was too sickly for combat. But he was educated, a proper academy student, so I put him to work elsewhere. Because I'd done something truly revolutionary. I created a bureaucracy. The White Deer Academy teachers and students became my administrative core. Record-keeping, census management, task assignment, supply tracking. Every person in camp got documented: name, age, background, skills. Then I matched people to jobs based on what they were actually good at. Xiao Yi, the rock-smashing revenge lady, became head of domestic operations, meal planning, foraging coordination, horse care, childcare logistics. She ran that department like a general runs a war. The elderly scholars? I put them in charge of education. Every child in camp would learn to read and do math. Every squad leader and above was required to attend classes. Anyone else who wanted to learn could study after finishing their daily work. And here's where I got really ambitious. I pulled out modern textbooks from my pocket dimension and introduced the academy teachers to simplified Chinese characters and pinyin, the phonetic system from my old world. The head scholar nearly fainted from academic excitement. These characters are so much more elegant and efficient than our current writing. And this phonetic system, if children learn these sounds, even a 3-year-old could start reading. He and his colleagues treated those books like sacred treasures. They studied day and night, mastered the system within days, then started building a curriculum to teach everyone else. Students taught soldiers. Soldiers taught each other. A literacy chain reaction. I also announced that anyone who excelled in their studies would be promoted to higher positions with better pay. Because nothing makes people study harder than the promise of a raise. So let me recap what I'd built in the span of about a week. A military with competitive salaries and death benefits. A civilian administration run by actual educated people. A public education system teaching a writing system that wouldn't be invented for another couple thousand years. Performance-based promotions. Merit rewards. A functioning economy based on grain distribution. I hadn't just started an army. I'd started a civilization. All from inside a valley, while 1,000 barbarians with a head-collecting hobby were hunting us. Not bad for a dead girl in a borrowed body. The literacy program was phase one of a much bigger plan. See, my villa's library had over 100,000 books. Politics, military strategy, agriculture, history, engineering, architecture, medicine, economics, basically an entire university crammed into one room. I couldn't exactly hand someone a textbook on modern infantry tactics if they couldn't read, hello? So, Step 1, teach everyone to read. Step 2, unleash the knowledge of a civilization 2,000 years ahead of them. Step 3, world domination.
Simple.
The soldiers now had 1 hour of mandatory study time daily on top of their training. Shan Yuyang, sharp as ever, came up with a brilliant incentive. 1 pound of grain for every 100 characters learned and 10 pinyin sounds mastered. The result? Grown men who'd never held a writing brush were suddenly competing like children at a spelling bee. Guys who could bench press a horse were hunched over in corners squinting at flashcards. The learning efficiency skyrocketed overnight. I rewarded Shan Yuyang with a pair of military binoculars for the idea. He reacted like I'd given him the keys to heaven. If anyone has good ideas, I announced, bring them to me. Good suggestions get rewards. The floodgates opened. Jia De suggested a heavy armor unit. Someone proposed a medical team. Another suggested a logistics corps. All excellent ideas. I approved everything and handed out personalized rewards. Jia De got a desert eagle. He literally sprinted away with it like a kid who'd stolen cookies, probably afraid I'd change my mind. Ding Xian got a bulletproof vest and helmet. Diao Mu got a butterfly knife. They all vanished to go play with their new toys. Happy soldiers are productive soldiers. Here's the thing I'd figured out. With 1,300 people, I couldn't micromanage everything. I'd die of exhaustion before any barbarian got the chance to kill me. The solution was delegation, give people frameworks, incentives, and ownership, then let them figure out the details. I built the skeleton. They'd grow the muscle. But first, barbarians. Still coming. Still angry. Still collecting heads as accessories. We had maybe 3 to 4 days before they found us. Every second counted. The whole camp shifted into war prep mode. Traps being built in the canyon, women making portable rations, scouts monitoring the enemy. I'd left observers near the county town to track the barbarian army's movements. Finally, I had a quiet moment to check my pocket dimension. My merit points had exploded. Saving most of a city plus absorbing 1,000 new followers had earned me over 10,000 points. 10,000. Yesterday, I'd unlocked Villa Floor 3 and Floor 4, 3,500 points. Today, I unlocked Basement Floors 2 and 3, 5,000 points. All 7 floors. Unlocked. Remaining points, 3,750. I practically floated up to Floor 3. My bedroom. The one I'd spent 7 apocalypse years in. Black and white minimalist design. King-size bed. 2.5 meters wide, because I have standards, black carpet, electric fireplace, 100-inch TV. I almost cried. Almost. Commanders don't cry. I touched the bed.
It was so soft.
My eyes may have gotten slightly moist. From dust. Then the training room, and here's where things got wild. Time inside the training room was frozen. I could spend 24 hours training and walk out at the exact moment I'd entered. 0 time passed in the real world. The catch? Frozen time cost merit points. 24 hours equals 100 points. Expensive, but for someone about to fight 1,000 barbarians? Worth every point. Then I went up to Floor 4. The sunroom. My babies. The second I opened the door, a golden head the size of a beach ball lunged at my face and gave me a wet snake kiss. Tuachuo. Down. Meet Tuachuo. A 12-meter golden python, thick as a barrel, covered in gorgeous patterns. She'd missed me. She showed this by trying to wrap her entire body around me like the world's most aggressive hug. From a snake that weighed several hundred pounds. Before I could pry Tuachuo off, another giant had dropped from the ceiling beam. Fugue, what have you been eating? Your breath is terrible. Fugue, my other golden python, was even bigger. 16 meters long. 800 kilograms. A deeper gold color, like actual solid gold. Hence the name Fugue, meaning rich and noble. She was so excited to see me that she wrapped me up like a snake ice cream cone before I could dodge. 2 massive pythons simultaneously love crushing their owner. This is what my life had become. After wrestling free from their affection, I checked on the others. Baiwan. Laifu. You guys okay? 2 mutant lizards in a glass terrarium. They glanced at me with supreme indifference, then went back to lying motionless. Peak reptile energy. I tossed in some mutant rat meat and, flash, 2 tongues shot out at impossible speed, snagging the food in milliseconds. Then right back to being statues. Cats wish they had this level of disdain. The killer bee swarm was buzzing happily in their enclosure. Everyone was alive and healthy. The villa lockdown hadn't bothered them at all. They'd been chilling in their climate-controlled luxury habitat while I was out here eating bark and fighting for my life. Lucky jerks. But here's why Floor 4 mattered strategically. These weren't pets. They were weapons. 2 giant pythons that could crush armored men. Lizards that moved faster than the eye could track. A swarm of killer bees that could decimate a formation. Against 1,000 barbarians, I needed every advantage I could get. Back to Floor 3. The training room. Time to invest. I bought 5 days of frozen training time. 500 points gone. 5 days of uninterrupted power training that would pass in 0 real-world seconds.
Perfect.
Then a new prompt appeared. Activate training room upgrade. Spend 3,000 points to level up your abilities. My abilities could be upgraded? With points? The universe was literally offering me a stat boost right before the boss fight? 3,000 points was almost everything I had left. 0 hesitation. Confirm. Points dropped to 250. White light engulfed me. I had no idea what was about to happen, but if this was anything like a video game power-up, those barbarians were in for a very unpleasant surprise. 3,000 merit points bought me the most painful experience of both my lives. The moment I confirmed the upgrade, warm energy flooded my body. Oh, this is nice, I thought, for about half a second. Then every bone in my body started twisting. Muscles shredded and rebuilt. Blood vessels ripped apart and rewove themselves. My skeleton was being disassembled and reassembled like evil IKEA furniture, except the instructions were written in agony. I don't know how long it lasted. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. When the pain finally faded, I smelled something foul. I looked down and discovered I was coated head to toe in black, reeking sludge, toxins, and impurities my body had expelled during the rebuild. I have smelled mutant beast corpses rotting in summer heat. This was worse. 3 showers. 3. I scrubbed until my skin was raw, and I still wasn't sure the smell was gone. But then I looked in the mirror and, hello, who is this? My skin had gone from famine yellow to 3 shades whiter. My features had sharpened, refined, like someone had run a beauty filter on my actual face. I looked like I'd aged from malnourished teenager to dangerously attractive young woman overnight. More importantly, power. I could feel it humming through me like an engine. I cracked my knuckles and they popped like firecrackers. I walked to the strength testing station and threw a punch. 237 pounds of force. I could shatter a meter-tall boulder with my fist. Previously, I could barely punch through a conversation without getting winded. Speed test, 10 meters in under 2 seconds. Explosiveness, vertical jump, reaction time. All dramatically above average soldier level. Still not my old apocalypse peak, but compared to the fainting noodle girl I'd been 2 weeks ago,
Night and day.
Then I tested my abilities and discovered something annoying. Those 3,000 points had only upgraded my wood power. Not my time-space power. Just the one. 3,000 points. For one ability. Are you kidding me? I yelled at the ceiling. That's highway robbery. I want a refund. The universe did not offer refunds. I had less than 500 points left. My bank account was emptier than the drought outside. Fine.
Fine.
Let's see what the wood upgrade actually got me. I grew a Venus flytrap from seed. Previously, 1 meter tall, lasted 15 minutes. Now, 5 meters tall. A carnivorous plant the height of a small building, with jaws that could punch holes in walls. It lasted over 30 minutes and was tough enough to use as a battering ram. Then I tried the man-eating flower. 2 meters tall, serrated petals like circular saws, mouth wide enough to swallow a person whole. It was genuinely one of the most terrifying things I'd ever created, and I'd lived through an apocalypse full of mutant monsters. 5 combat plants simultaneously. Control range, 15 meters. Detection range, 15 kilometers. If a barbarian sneezed within 10 miles, I'd know about it. Not bad for a rip-off upgrade. I spent the remaining 4.5 days in the time-frozen training room grinding my body to peak condition. When I finally walked out, 0 seconds passed in real time, I was a completely different fighter. Now for the fun part. Arming the troops. From my arsenal, I pulled 300 military-grade straight swords would slice through barbarian curved blades like butter. 200 electric batons, even untrained recruits could incapacitate someone with these, just point and zap, and 200 spears for disrupting cavalry charges. The real stars, though, were the landmines and grenades. Ergo Z, the kid I'd stitched back together, had been studying explosives handling ever since he recovered. Kid was a natural. I'd formed a special demolition squad under him. 15 teenagers selected for their speed, small hands, and willingness to play with things that go boom. They'd been practicing daily, and today was graduation day. They buried landmines throughout the canyon approach, the narrow passage that was the only route into Wind Chime Valley. Tripwires connected to detonation lines. Every step of that path was a death sentence waiting to activate. I also pulled out several barrels of gasoline.
Why?
Because fire is the universal problem solver. 4 days of preparation. Traps set. Troops trained. Weapons distributed. Food stockpiled. Scout network active. Then, right on schedule, my scouts reported. The barbarians were coming. 1,000 warriors. Led by Fu Tu, the skull-collecting psychopath. They'd spent 2 days ransacking the county town and murdering everyone who'd stayed behind. Those geniuses who thought hiding in their houses would work. Now they'd picked up our trail and were heading straight for us. I detected them at 15 kilometers through my plant network. Scouts confirmed with signal flares. Every person in camp dropped what they were doing and took position. Half an hour later, dust clouds appeared on the horizon. The barbarian army materialized like a sandstorm with swords. Fu Tu halted his forces at the canyon entrance. He wasn't stupid. He sent scouts ahead first. They found the tracks Ding Xian had planted. Hoof prints, wagon ruts, footprints, all pointing straight into the canyon. Beautiful forgeries. Ding Xian, by the way, had spent the last 2 days devouring a modern forensic tracking textbook I'd given him. The man had gone from decent scout to can fake evidence that fools professional trackers in 48 hours. Education works, people. Fu Tu was cautious. He sent men to check the canyon rim for ambushes. They found nothing because we weren't on the rim. We were hidden much further back, wearing camouflage gear, invisible against the rocky hillside. Satisfied it was clear, he led his army into the canyon. We waited. Let them come deeper. More bodies in the kill zone meant more damage per explosion. Fu Tu rode at the front, looking uneasy. It's too quiet, he muttered, sending more scouts ahead. They found nothing, because there was nothing to find, until you stepped on the wrong patch of ground. Now, I ordered. Pull the lines. Ergo Z's demolition kids yanked the detonation cords.
Boom.
The first mine erupted and sent 15 barbarians flying through the air in pieces.
Boom. 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 Boom.
A chain of explosions ripped through the canyon. Fire. Shrapnel. Shockwaves. Horses screaming, men screaming, the narrow walls amplifying every blast into a thundering echo chamber of destruction. The horses panicked. Of course they did. They'd never heard explosions before, and stampeded in every direction, trampling their own riders, crashing into canyon walls, crushing men underfoot. Retreat. Ambush. Hold your ground. Neither order mattered. You can't retreat in a narrow canyon when the horses behind you are charging forward in blind terror. You can't hold ground that's literally exploding under your feet. Within seconds, the mighty barbarian army was in absolute chaos. Bodies everywhere. Fire everywhere. Screaming everywhere. And we hadn't even started the real attack yet. The mines stopped going off, but the party was just getting started. Ergo Z's demolition kids had already silently dealt with the barbarian scouts who'd climbed to the canyon rim. They took the high ground on both sides and started chucking grenades down like the world's deadliest confetti. Another wave of barbarians. Deleted. They're up there. Charge. The barbarians looked up, ready to climb, and saw boulders. Lots of boulders. Soaked in gasoline. On fire. Rolling straight at them.
Move. Move.
M.O. Too late. Flaming rocks the size of barrels crashed through the barbarian formation like bowling balls through pins. Some guys got launched into walls. Some got their skulls caved in instantly. And anyone who got splashed with even a drop of burning gasoline became a human torch. No water anywhere in this drought-blasted wasteland to put themselves out. The canyon filled with black smoke and the smell of burning flesh. It was genuinely horrific, and I say that as someone who once watched a mutant spider eat a helicopter. Break through, Fu Tu screamed, charging toward the canyon exit. A spear punched through his horse mid-gallop. The horse shrieked and ragdolled him into the dirt. His bodyguards swarmed around him with shields, trying to push through to the exit. Archers. Fire. My signal flags went up. Over 100 compound bows, crossbows, and repeating crossbows opened up simultaneously. 4,000 arrows, half my entire stockpile, rained down like a biblical plague. The barbarians tried shooting back. Their arrows fell short halfway up. My modern compound bows had roughly triple the range of their traditional ones. They were literally bringing sticks to a missile fight. Under that relentless steel rain, the mighty barbarian army was shredded. Out of 1,000 warriors, fewer than 300 made it through the canyon alive. They stumbled out the exit, gasping, bleeding, thinking they'd escaped.
Gieda.
Your turn. Through the walkie-talkie, his voice came back practically vibrating with excitement. Ready and waiting, 400 of our best soldiers were positioned right at the canyon exit, and the ground in front of it was soaked in gasoline. The surviving barbarians ran straight into more landmines. The explosions ignited the gasoline. A wall of fire erupted, so high it looked like the earth itself was angry. Barbarians burned alive, screaming and rolling in flames. No water for miles. Nothing to do but watch them turn to charcoal. Jiada's soldiers stared. These were men who'd spent their military careers being terrified of barbarians. They'd watched their friends die, their cities fall, their general betrayed. Barbarians were supposed to be invincible, and now they were watching them burn and scream and BG. Then, because the universe apparently decided this wasn't dramatic enough, a war horn echoed across the wasteland. Jiada's face went pale. That's a barbarian's signal horn. The ground started shaking. From behind a distant ridge, a second force appeared.
Massive bulls.
Over 100 of them, each carrying a barbarian warrior in animal furs. And at the front, 2 tigers, each one the size of a small car, ridden by a hulking barbarian who radiated final boss energy. The beast core, Shan Yuyang, went white. That commander must be a general. Only generals can deploy beast units. Barbarian beast tamers, people with the supernatural ability to control animals. The most feared weapon in the barbarian arsenal. The reason entire kingdoms surrendered rather than fight. Our scouts had never detected them. They'd been hidden as a backup, a trump card, and we'd walked right past them. Shan Yuyang turned to me urgently. Mr. Wan, these beast warriors are nearly impossible to fight. You should retreat while. No, but they have war beasts. So do I. Everyone stared at me like I'd finally lost it. Then something golden flickered through the tall grass near the beast core. The tiger mount suddenly went crazy, stamping, snarling, trying to bolt. The war bulls behind it started bellowing in panic. The beast tamer felt it too, predator instinct screaming that something bigger was nearby. Then the sky darkened. Bees, 100 killer bees, each one the size of a fist, descended on the beast core like a biblical plague. They targeted eyes, necks, any exposed skin. Barbarians started screaming, swatting frantically, falling off their mounts. Shan Yuyang grabbed his binoculars. What the? Giant bees? Where did those come from? The war bulls went berserk. A 1,000-pound animal doesn't care about military discipline when it's being stung by mutant hornets the size of tennis balls. The entire formation dissolved into stampeding chaos. While the bees created pandemonium, my mutant lizard struck. 1 second there was nothing. The next, a blur of scales clamped onto the lead tiger's leg and vanished. The beast tamer's whip cracked at empty air. The lizard was already gone. Flash speed ambush, in and out before anyone could blink. The tiger collapsed. Black blood poured from the bite wound. The lizard's venom was already working, fast-acting, lethal, no antidote in this century. The second tiger roared in fury. The beast tamer scattered repelling powder, the kind that drives away snakes and insects. The killer bees retreated. But the damage was done. Over half the war bulls were stung and poisoned, toppling like dominoes. Their riders, faces swollen into purple balloons, foaming at the mouth, convulsing, dropped one after another. Fist-sized bees pump a lot of venom. The beast tamer blew a special whistle, barely regaining control of the surviving bulls. He thought the worst was over. Then something wrapped around his waist and yanked him off his mount. Spinning through the air, he came face to face with a pair of golden, slit-pupiled eyes. Hissus. Tuachuo, my 12-meter golden python, coiled around him like a living straitjacket, staring into his soul with the cold patience of an apex predator. The beast tamer had never seen anything this big. His brain short-circuited. Is this a serpent god? The remaining tiger leapt to save its master. Tuachuo didn't even look. She just whipped her tail sideways and launched the tiger through the air like a furry cannonball. It crashed to the ground with a pitiful whimper, at least 2 ribs shattered. A mutant python from a post-apocalyptic world versus a regular-sized ancient tiger. Not even close. Their beast core. My beast core. Mine was better. I stood on the hilltop watching my pets dismantle the barbarian's ultimate weapon, and I couldn't help but smile. You brought animals to a monster fight. Fu Tuesday rookie mistake. The beast tamer was getting the full Tuachuo experience, which is to say, every bone in his body was slowly being converted into powder. His face went blue, his ribs cracked one by one like bubble wrap, and in a final desperate move, he pulled out a poison gas bomb and chucked it at her. Tuachuo loosened her grip just enough for him to drop to the ground. He blew his bone whistle frantically, summoning a war bull. But the bull didn't even make it to him. Tuachuo snagged it mid-gallop and snapped its neck like a breadstick. One squeeze.
Done.
The beast tamer's face went from panicked to existential crisis. This snake was smart. It was targeting weak points deliberately. This wasn't a dumb animal. This was a calculated predator with combat intelligence. He managed to grab another bull and bolted. His brain was screaming questions he had no answers for. Why are there giant pythons in a canyon? Why are there mutant killer bees? What is this place? Then he saw Fugue. Fugue, my 16-meter, 800-kilogram golden python, rose up in front of him like a living skyscraper. Standing upright, she was taller than a 3-story building. Her golden scales gleamed in the sunlight like the world's most terrifying piece of jewelry. Every war bull within visual range collectively decided, nope. They scattered in blind terror, throwing their riders like mechanical bulls at a rodeo. The beast tamer's own mount bucked him off and fled screaming. He lay on the ground, staring up at Fugue as she slithered closer, and for the first time in his life, knew what prey felt like. One scream. One gulp. No more beast tamer. Up on the ridge, Shan Yuyang watched through his binoculars and went the color of old milk. What, in the name of, what is that thing? The legendary beast core. The barbarian's most feared weapon. The reason entire nations surrendered without fighting had been dismantled by my pets in about 10 minutes. Shan Yuyang turned to warn me to evacuate. Mr. Wan, we need to get you away before that monster sees, Mr. Wan. I was gone. Already walking down to the canyon entrance. Miss Wan, come back. The snake. He watched in absolute horror as Fugue's massive head loomed over me, jaws big enough to swallow a horse. He was already composing my eulogy in his head. Then Tuachuo nuzzled my hand like a golden retriever. HSSSSSS, she said happily, rubbing her enormous skull against my palm. Good girl. I'll get you some beef later. Tuachuo literally tied herself into a bow shape from excitement. My 12-meter killing machine, doing the snake equivalent of a happy wiggle. Shan Yuyang's brain left the building. He started walking toward me, then Fugue's head popped up right in front of his group. She stared at them with her enormous golden eyes, slit pupils dilating. Everyone froze. Sweat instantly soaking through their clothes. Nobody breathed. Then Fugue opened her mouth wide, revealing a cavern of teeth, and breathed directly on them. A wave of rotting meat breath hit them like a physical wall. She wasn't attacking. She was messing with them. The snake equivalent of jumping out and yelling, "Boo, Fugue. Stop being a brat." She ignored me. She was having the time of her life, watching grown soldiers try not to faint. Some of the younger guards were literally gray in the face. One guy's eyes rolled back, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes. Full unconscious. Taken out not by barbarians, not by explosions, by snake breath. I marched over and kicked her. Full force, right in the side. 800 kilograms of python rocked slightly. Fugue finally noticed me, and her response was to nuzzle me so aggressively, she almost knocked me over. Her head alone weighed more than I did. And Miss Ruan. There. Yours. Shan Yu-yang was stuttering. This man had fought barbarians, survived slavery, and watched me regrow a severed leg, but 2 affectionate pythons broke his brain. They're my pets. I kept them hidden so they wouldn't scare everyone. They've been following us at a distance. Dead silence. Every single person in earshot had the exact same thought. Who keeps giant pythons as pets? I could see it on their faces. The slow, creeping realization that their boss was not merely unusual, not merely talented, not merely blessed by the heavens. She was something else entirely. Something they had no category for. Anyway, I said, sitting on Tuachuo's head like a throne, because why not? Go clean up the battlefield. Send a squad to help Jiada's group too. Yes, ma'am. They shuffled off in a daze, frequently looking back to confirm that yes, the teenage girl was still casually sitting on a 12-meter snake. Meanwhile, Jiada had wrapped things up on his end. Between the gasoline fires and the landmines, the 300 barbarians who'd escaped the canyon hadn't lasted long. And, cherry on top, he'd captured Futu alive. You have no idea who I am. Futu snarled through bloody teeth. When my people find out, shut him up, Jiada said, yawning, and had someone stuff a rag in the barbarian leader's mouth. Half an hour later, Jiada came strutting over to the canyon entrance, dragging Futu behind him, ready to brag about his kill count to Shan Yu-yang. Old Shan, you should have seen it. The gasoline went up and they just... Shan Yu-yang was staring into the distance with 1,000-yard eyes.
Hey.
Are you listening? What's wrong with your face? Shan Yu-yang pointed. Jiada turned around. His first words were not suitable for print in any language. I asked that a... Why is there a... I asked the miss sitting on IT's head, Shan Yu-yang, with the calm of a man who had already processed his existential crisis, nodded.
Yes.
They're her pets. There are 2 of them. Jiada grabbed his own head like he was trying to keep it from floating away. I thought I heard a tiger earlier. Was that the beast core? Yep. The snakes ate them. Jiada clutched his chest. His heart was apparently trying to escape through his ribcage. So there I sat, perched on Tuachuo's golden head like a dragon queen on her throne, my army scattered. Around me in various states of shock, a barbarian general gagged at my feet, a canyon full of dead enemies behind me, and 2 giant pythons competing for head scratches. Not a bad Tuesday. After the battle, Shan Yu-yang had a moment of clarity. You know what? She can reattach severed limbs with golden light. 2 giant pet snakes is honestly pretty tame by comparison. Fair point, Shan Yu-yang. Character growth. He and Jiada had a quick conversation about keeping my secret. Jiada rolled his eyes. You think I don't know that? I've been covering for her since day one. Here's the thing. My inner circle had quietly figured out that I wasn't normal. The endless supply of magical weapons, the modern food, the water bottles, the medicine. Nobody's that good at foraging. But they'd all independently decided. Don't ask, don't tell. Just enjoy the steamed buns. A beautiful unspoken conspiracy of loyalty. I'd been testing them with breadcrumbs of weirdness for weeks, and every single one passed. Good. They were keepers. That night was a feast. We'd captured 800 horses, 320 bushels of grain, over 1,000 weapons, hundreds of suits of armor, and, the real prize, thousands of pounds of meat from dead war bulls and 2 tigers. Minor issue. Most of the animals had died from my lizard's poison and the killer bee venom. Minor issue. I had antidote pills that neutralized toxins during cooking. I expected people to be suspicious. Maybe test the meat on someone expendable first?
Nope.
I said, put this pill in the pot, and they put the pill in the pot. Then they ate. Without hesitation. Without question. Bowls emptied faster than I could blink. The trust these people had in me was honestly a little terrifying. If I told them the rocks were edible, half of them would start chewing. 1,000 people, thousands of pounds of beef, mountains of steamed buns, and vats of porridge. Kids running around laughing, old people smiling, the whole valley smelling like a barbecue restaurant. For one night, nobody was scared. Nobody was hungry. Nobody was thinking about barbarians or war or death. I sat and watched from a distance. This was what I was building. Not just an army, a community, a future. Then, because the universe refuses to let me have one peaceful evening, it was late. Camp was asleep. I was lying in my tent when my plant sense pinged. Movement, about 15 kilometers out. Multiple people approaching fast. Barbarian reinforcements? I slipped out without waking anyone and rode off alone to investigate. What I found was not barbarians. It was a battle. 30-something assassins in black, professional killers, clearly death squad types, were attacking an ornate black carriage. This wasn't some peasant wagon. It was made of rare ebony wood, dripping with luxury. Whoever was inside had serious money. A single bodyguard was fighting desperately, outnumbered 30-1. The kid had skills, real martial arts training, but there were just too many assassins. They breached the carriage. Hidden mechanisms fired. Spears and throwing daggers shot out from concealed compartments, like an ancient Chinese version of a Bond car. Took out a few assassins, but eventually the ammo ran dry. The assassins ripped the carriage apart. From the wreckage stumbled a man. Moonlight hit him, and okay, look, I'm a hardened military commander who has killed more things than I can count. I don't do stunned by pretty, but this guy... Purple robes. Silver hair. Actual silver. Gleaming like starlight. A face so perfectly sculpted it looked like someone had carved it from jade and then decided it wasn't beautiful enough and carved it again. Aristocratic. Ethereal. The kind of face that makes you temporarily forget how breathing works. I blinked. Recovered. Moving on. The assassins closed in on him. His bodyguard screamed, "My lord!" from across the field, pinned down by a dozen more attackers. I stepped out of the shadows, whip in hand, except my whip was a thorn vine, alive and covered in razor-sharp spikes. Who's there? The person who's about to kill you. I flicked my wrist. The thorn vine exploded in length, 10, 15 meters of living barbed wire, and punched clean through 2 assassins' chests before anyone could blink. The remaining assassins stared at their dead comrades, then at me, then at the writhing murder vine in my hand. What is that? Several threw grappling hooks at me. I snapped the vine back and swatted them out of the air. But it was a feint. 3 assassins used the distraction to rush me with swords aimed at my throat.
Clang.
Their blades hit something that definitely wasn't a shield. They looked down and saw a man-eating flower. 2 meters tall, petals lined with saw teeth, blocking their swords with its stem like a living bodyguard. What the? Move. Retreat. Too slow. The flower's jaws snapped shut on the first assassin's head.
Clean off. Gone.
The other 2 got skewered by its vine tentacles and hoisted into the air, blood raining down like a sprinkler system from hell. The surviving assassins watched their elite comrades get decapitated by a plant and collectively reconsidered their career choices. "What are you?" one screamed. Inside, I was having a great time. Outside, I kept my face completely neutral. Murder plants work best when you look bored while using them. The silver-haired man watched all of this from the ground. I couldn't read his expression. Shock? Fascination? Calculating whether I was more dangerous than the assassins? Good question, pretty boy. The answer is yes. Significantly. The assassins wanted to have a conversation. I did not. You dare oppose us? We serve the Prince of Rue. We are executing a traitor under royal orders. Unless you want trouble, back off. The Prince of Rue, I vaguely remembered Shan Yuyang mentioning him. The current emperor's only older brother. Controlled 100,000 soldiers. Basically the second most powerful person in the empire. Real scary stuff on paper.
Cool story, I said.
Here's the thing though, my thorn vine shot through the speaker's throat before he finished blinking. Dead men don't deliver warnings. Then I went full plant apocalypse. Thorny vines erupted from the ground like a forest of razor blades, skewering assassins left and right. Some got impaled through the chest. Others got their guts rearranged. One second they were standing, next second they were decorating my plants like the world's most horrifying Christmas ornaments. The surviving assassins charged me. Their feet got tangled in grass I'd grown across the ground, living tripwires that wrapped around their ankles and locked them in place. By the time they hacked free, I was already on them. Military knife.
Clean arcs.
One throat per swing. Blood sprayed across the moonlit clearing like abstract art. Bodies dropped one after another until nobody was standing except me, the bodyguard, and the mysterious carriage man. I flicked the blood off my blade and turned around.
Now.
About that man in the carriage. The bodyguard, long phone, immediately stepped between us, sword drawn, looking at me like I might be worse than the assassins. Fair assessment, honestly. But I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at the man on the ground. Purple robes. Silver hair that literally glowed in the moonlight. A face so absurdly beautiful, it was almost offensive. And I don't say that lightly. I've lived 2 lives and killed approximately 1,000,000 things. Pretty faces don't register on my radar. This one registered. Because he looked exactly like someone from my previous life. A man who'd once saved me during the apocalypse. Same face. Same bone structure. Same unearthly beauty. My brain did a hard reboot. Was it him? Had he also transmigrated to this world? I studied him more carefully. No, not quite. The vibe was completely different. My old acquaintance had been cold, serious, permanently frowning. This man had a lazy smile and bedroom eyes. Plus there was a beauty mark on his nose that the other man didn't have. Different person. Same face. Weird universe. But because of that face, because of a debt I owed to a dead man in another world, I'd already committed to saving this one. The decision had been instant and irrational, and I was not happy about it. He's going to die if you keep wasting time, I told the bodyguard, nodding toward his unconscious master. How do you know he's been poisoned? Long Feng demanded suspiciously. I gave him my best "Are you serious?" look. His lips are purple. His face is white. His fingers are blue up to the wrist. And the blood on his mouth is black. You don't need medical school for this, buddy. The man woke up before his bodyguard could decide whether to trust me or stab me. His voice was low and raspy. Thank you for saving us. Would you be willing to help with the poison as well? Polite.
Smooth.
His smile was the kind that made people forget he was dying. All charm and elegance, like a flower that happened to be venomous. His narrow phoenix eyes looked at me with an intimacy that felt practiced. Weaponized attractiveness. Beautiful snake. My brain supplied unhelpfully. What's your name? He asked, smiling like we were at a garden party instead of a corpse-littered clearing. Nobody. Just passing through. He took the rejection gracefully. I'm Huixingyan. His bodyguards had snapped around. Apparently sharing his personal name with a stranger was a big deal. I honestly didn't care. I hadn't asked. Give me your hand. He extended it. I pricked his finger with a needle faster than he could react, collected a drop of blood, and sent it to my spatial dimension for analysis. My basement had a full medical laboratory, including a diagnostic pod I'd purchased from a sci-fi civilization in my interdimensional mall. One drop of blood could identify any toxin known to any universe. What did you do? Long Feng had his sword out again. Checking what poison your boss ate. Relax. Preliminary observation. Some kind of slow-acting nerve toxin. Accumulated over at least 10 years. Meaning someone had been poisoning this man since childhood. Lovely family, he must have. Can I see your legs? He'd been unable to walk properly. The poison had probably spread through his nervous system to the point of affecting mobility. Insolent, Long Feng's sword was basically touching my neck now. How dare you? Your boss hasn't said no. Are you the doctor here, or am I? Do you know what's wrong with him? No? Then put the sword away and let me work. Long Feng sputtered like a broken engine. I stared at Huixingyan. You going to control your dog, or should I leave? Long Feng. Manners. One sentence. Long Feng shut up instantly. Impressive control. Though, don't be rude, was a pretty weak reprimand for a guy who'd been pointing a sword at the person trying to save your life. Hua Xingyan pulled back the blanket covering his legs, smiling pleasantly. Please go ahead. He was smiling, but his eyes were absolutely not smiling. Those beautiful phoenix eyes were calculating, cold, and clearly communicating. Touch me wrong, and I will end you, rescuer or not. Charming on the surface. Lethal underneath. Classic beautiful snake behavior. If he didn't have that stupid face, the face that reminded me of someone I actually owed my life to, I would have walked away 10 minutes ago. Roll up your own pants, I said flatly. I'm not your maid. Long Feng's eye twitched so hard I thought it might detach. Hua Xingyan laughed softly. My apologies. He wasn't sorry. I wasn't sorry. We were two extremely dangerous people pretending to be civil, while silently evaluating how quickly we could kill each other. This was going to be so annoying.